another edition of Ask Michael Ehline. This is where I teach people the law in an unorthodox manner by using examples that we see in the news, case law briefs, but it's all about exposing the Leviathan and its instrumentalities and taking back your rights. Know the law and mean to keep it well. Come here to learn from an expert to know your right. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Hey guys, how's it going? I am attorney Michael Ehline, and as most of you know, I am an attorney licensed in California and Texas. I primarily do catastrophic injury claims like motorcycle accidents, big rig truck accidents, but I've been getting an overwhelming request and demand from my viewers asking me to talk more about DEI, which, you know, we all say didn't earn it, right? But other people call it diversity, equity, and inclusion. And many of us know it also as cultural Marxism and reverse discrimination against males and white people in particular. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what DEI and in particular critical race theory is, which is being pushed by the Democrat Party as well as the public school systems, in particular in California. And the National Education Association big time is pushing this critical race theory thing. And we thought that it was going to stop with the election of the new president, because we know that it violates equal protection in the Constitution as well as the Bill of Rights. Hey, happy Easter, guys. Let's OTVO, our guy 936. Hoorah, good seeing you guys. That's right. Happy Easter. I got to take my son to church this morning and teach him a little bit about the resurrection and all that stuff. So that was really cool. Always good to teach your kids about morality and the values that made America an amazing place. Hey, Kurt Bronson, good seeing you. So really quickly, before I get into my first videos, hopefully you guys can hear me. Give me some 5x5s if I got comms. I think I do. Otherwise, you would be telling me by now that you don't hear me. But well, anyways, if I can get this thing done fast enough, I'm going to take my kids out for buy-in, and we'll bring the Mini 14, and we'll go do some plinking on the BLM land. No, not the BLM fraudulent Black Lives Matter scam charity, but Bureau of Land Management, where you can go shoot off-road in the state of Nevada. So really quickly, I'm just going to tell you. So there's an argument that DEI, which is called by the Democrats diversity, equity, and inclusion, and by normal people didn't earn it. It hinges on the same things as critical race theory, which is what we call reverse discrimination. And we'll get into that in a little while. But the left wants to teach it in schools, and basically it teaches that the civil rights of white people and males in particular need to be curtailed in order to allow other people who are less privileged, they call it privileged, can catch up. And so DEI, in short, is a policy that prioritizes certain racial or gender groups. Like if you're a guy and you like to have sex with other guys, that makes you more qualified. Same with the female who likes to have sex with women. So it prioritizes your sexual preference, for example, over a straight person. They call them straight people. That's a new word that I didn't even know about until I was, I don't know, in my 20s. But anyways, and so they want to make sure that these so-called minority groups get to the front of the line to get things like scholarships, admissions, and leadership roles in government, in particular in law enforcement in the police department. And they say that it doesn't really disadvantage white students or males because we're already privileged, and therefore we need to be punished basically and go to the back of the line to make up for the sins, I guess, of our parents. I don't really understand it, to be honest. But the affirmative action style programs they definitely lead to what, under the law, unequal standards, and they violate the principle of merit-based treatment that is protected under the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. And I know that because I do civil rights law, and I've worked on cases, in particular for females who were displaced at their jobs because they were white. And so they had to go to the back of the line, and they won those cases. So because it's true. I mean, you can't be discriminated against in this country based upon your color. And that works for white people too. We have the same ability not to be discriminated against as anyone else under the law. Now, critical race theory is taught in a lot of public schools and on college campuses in particular, and they conceal it as intersectionalism, but it's basically a form of cultural Marxism, because in the United States,
the concept of Marxism and discriminating against people because they were successful due to their money, like rich versus poor, didn't really work out for the left. So they re-engineered it into what they call critical race theory, which is another form of cultural Marxism. So now instead of money, they say that it's because of your skin color that you have success. And that has had a lot of, has done well in inner city neighborhoods to help the Democrat Party garner a lot of votes. Let's discriminate against people who are lighter skinned than you, and then you vote for us and we'll give you a job in the police department or whatever. And so that is called critical race theory. And that is very similar to what the Nazis did in World War II against the Jews in prior to World War II, where they would, in the public school system, they would teach that all the Jews were privileged and therefore they needed to be discriminated against. And ultimately they got put on cattle carts. But because they were able to brainwash the populace into thinking that this particular group was evil, it was really easy for them to do. And that's basically, in a nutshell, what critical race theory is. But since it's being used against, white people and Asians as well, by the way, it's also being used against Asians because they have, I guess their IQs are too high. So that makes them privileged. I guess that's the argument. So the idea behind critical race theory is to foster guilt and stigmatization based on race. And so what it does in practicality, it creates a hostile educational environment. And it definitely violates Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, which prohibits discrimination based on race in federally funded programs. And for males, CRT's intersectional lens might critique toxic masculinity. They teach, unless you act really effeminate, that you're toxically masculine. So guys like me, like, military veterans, were automatically targeted as being toxic and all that other crazy stuff. So they call it male privilege on the college campuses. And so there have been some legal precedents like Grutter versus Bollinger. It's a 2003 case that allows limited race-based considerations in education, but it requires it to be narrowly tailored to avoid discrimination. So it's like double speak, right? And then there's another one. So critics argue that DEI oversteps these bounds, and cases like Students versus Fair Admissions versus Harvard, a 2023 case, where a race-neutral alternative was emphasized. For males, Title IX considerations arrive if DEI programs disproportionately favor females in areas like STEM scholarships or leadership training. The practical impact is that it turns people against each other. That's bottom line. When you've got these Marxist public school teachers trying to tell all their students that all the white people are evil and they need to be punished, that obviously fosters hostility, and it leads to people getting stabbed. For example, like this recent case. When you tell your children all their lives that they're a victim, it's going to lead to them hating the oppressor. It's just common sense. So, it goes against everything that Martin Luther King Jr. taught, which was judging people based upon their character and not their skin color. So in essence, that's what DEI is. Good seeing you, Phil Mitchell. Good seeing you, James Forbes. And so since I've had an overwhelming response from people wanting to learn more about this, and they're sending me videos, hey, watch this DEI video where this cop gets promoted just because she's, a certain skin color, or because she's black, or because she's a female, and then she's getting busted because, she already had a record for doing bad stuff, but they let her on anyways to make up for the sins of the past. And so I'm going to play some of those videos, and we're also going to talk about what's going on in the public school system, because just because Orange Man got in doesn't mean that the public school systems still are not run by radical Marxists, many people say. And so we're going to talk about the latest scandal involving the National Education Association, the sexualization of children. And we're going to talk about the butt plug case that just came up in the news, where this female public school, lesbian female, or maybe she's a they, them, public school teacher is teaching all the kids in her class about how to use butt plugs. And this is one of the reasons why myself and hundreds of my friends have already fled California to get our kids out of the California public school system, and why thousands more are homeschooling their kids, because we don't want our children being taught these things. We want our kids to go to school to learn reading, writing, and arithmetic, not how to be a good Marxist Democrat. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. And I hope all of you guys are having a terrific Easter as well. So we'll start off with the first DEI video so you can understand what critical race theory is, because this is basically what started with Barack Obama, and it was being pushed by Joe Biden. And in a nutshell, this is what most Democrats are pushing to be in the public school system, and they want your kids to be taught this. And this is why so many people are pulling their kids, primarily why so many people are pulling their kids out of the public school system in droves. And I wonder why. I mean, let's listen to what this woman says. Maybe she needs to also, these are the same types of people who also say that the reason they're overweight is because of racism, right? They say, well, it's not my fault that I can't eat properly. It's racism. So let's listen to what this professional victim has to say, and then we'll get into it.
Line.
It's just going downhill from that.
Jared was like, this, dude. I'm going to the quad. Tyler, you want to go to the quad, bro?
I think it's a prerequisite, bro.
Oh, shit, dude.
All white people are racist. So I put this up.
That little laugh right there. She's like, yo, y'all really still sitting here?
She's like, yo, I'm bugging. Like, y'all really here?
She's like, yo, I'm about to flame all of y'all.
What?
I put this up because I really want any white person in the room to know up front that this is what we're dealing with, that it's not going to be this coddling of white tears and what that looks like. We're not going to discuss, oh, maybe some of us have worked it out. No, you're always going to be racist, actually. So even when you're on your path to trying to figure out how to be a better human being, because
like, hand the crowd looking like
she's drinking that water. She's like,
oh,
she's like, this is gonna be a long.
She's like,
she's like,
this water's spicy, but I'm still drinking.
Everyone in there is like figuring out how can I walk out without her flaming.
Yeah. That's why she's gonna sit there and drink mad water and be like, oh, I gotta pee so bad. I've been drinking so much water.
Look at the black lady. The black lady's like, yeah, roast them, girl. Yeah.
Get him.
Get him.
like that actually instead of
Yo, Shorty in the front got up and was like,
she got up there was like, Martha, sit down. She's gonna see you. She's like, I'm not staying for this. I'm not racist. Martha, sit down.
Sit down.
Martha, sit down.
Stop.
What's wrong with you? She's gonna flame you.
Sit.
People of color and black folks being dehumanized, that actually everyone is dehumanized off rip within white supremacy, that y'all are born into a life to not be human, and that's what y'all are taught to do. To be humans.
So this is what a lot of Democrats really believe. They've been taught since they were children that white people really aren't human, that only white people are capable of hate and racism, and that her race is excluded from that. And so that gives her the right to basically, like if white people were to talk about her skin colored people that way, they would be getting stabbed instantly. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. But this is government sanctioned hate, many people say, against white people. Let's listen.
Yo! Teach these devils!
For real.
Yo!
For real.
Yo!
Go off, Ashley.
Go off. Where's your headgear and the wrestling belt?
Oh.
Yo! Teach these devils!
I just show up with the phone pops with the wrestling belt.
Yo.
Let's go.
Dorothy in the front is like, yo, nah, chill, she wild out. She said, demons, nah, come on, son, you gotta let me leave now.
Like, I'm leaving. I'm gonna run up on her. Oh, no,
stop.
She's gonna wash you.
Stop, she's gonna wash your shit. The tapioca got you talking spicy.
So in this particular way, white people are all racist.
Yeah,
so
of course.
I just want y'all to know that up front.
And now for the rest of this speech.
Now from the stage, Jesus Amaro. We're like, hey, y'all. Hey, shucky ducky quack.
Hey,
y'all.
If
Give it up for Ashley.
Yo, get it for Ashley, y'all. Shout out to all my demons.
Hey, we out here. Hellfire again.
Yo, word up.
All right, so you kind of get it, right?
You're watching the Jesus and Miro YouTube channel.
So subscribe.
Yeah, so you guys get it. All right, so that's the segue in. So that's the DEI. Well, that's more. Yeah, that's the critical race theory aspect, which goes part and parcel with DEI. Okay, just so you understand. So DEI and critical race theory, they're basically part of the same two-headed snake, right? Being pushed by the far left. And so now we're going to get into what's going on in the public school system. Besides telling white kids that they're oppressors and telling black kids that they're oppressed and pushing that, and minorities, except for Asians, of course, that they're oppressed. This is the next prong, the sexualization of children. So let's watch to see why so many parents are pulling their kids out of public schools.
Meet Joe Bruno, Dean of Students at the prestigious Francis W. Parker Private School in Chicago, which happens to charge $40,000 per student.
They're just like passing around dildos, butt plugs. The kids are just playing with them. They're like, how does this butt plug work? How do we do, like, how does this work? That's a really cool part of my job.
Parents might be stunned to learn that Bruno's version of love and acceptance means handing out sex toys to underage students.
So I've been the dean for 4 years. During Pride, we do a Pride Week every year. And I had our LGBTQ plus health center come in.
Hey,
They
Kevin.
were passing around butt plugs and dildos to my students, talking about queer sex, using lube versus using spit.
Who is this?
This is an LGBTQ plus health center came in to talk to my high school students. They're just passing around dildos, butt plugs. The kids are just.
So here's a typical high school, right? And so I'm always blown away. How is it that these are the male teachers that end up in the high schools? When I was in high school, for the short time that I did go to a public school, we had military veterans. They were very masculine, and they taught us, wood shop, and they taught us values like hard work. It was always treat everyone equal. Don't treat blacks any different than whites. Don't treat one race any different than the other. And now we have it's completely changed. It's like the reverse of what was going on, I guess, in a lot of the schools in the 50s. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. Listen to what Joseph Bruno, Dean of Students at the Parker School in Chicago, Illinois, says. Would you want your little Johnny to be in one of his classrooms? Give me a bunch of ones if you would. Give me a bunch of twos if you wouldn't.
Just playing with them, looking at them.
In the school?
In a classroom.
Wow.
Yeah. While I'm sitting there. Then we had a drag queen come in, pass out cookies and brownies and do photos.
That's so amazing. And everybody's cool with that, the butt plugs and the dildos. Nobody complains.
No.
I mean, if the parents found out, would they?
No. It's queer sex. This is the drag queen that came in.
What's her name?
Alexis Bevels.
Alexis Bevels.
And just hung out in my classroom.
And was there?
Or hung out in my office.
You have so much freedom. So much wiggle room.
So much freedom. So much money.
I mean,
to do stuff.
Trustees are okay with that too? They don't know.
They would. It's I wouldn't even run it by them. Why would I run it by them? They would be like, oh my God, that's wonderful.
Yeah. How old were the kids with the classroom?
14, 18. They're like, how does this work?
So they don't tell the parents. Okay. That's the thing. It's always, they used to call this child grooming back in the day, where you try outside the presence of the parents, try to groom a child sexually. So I'm not sure how they're able to get away with this, other than the fact, from what I've heard, is that they control the judgeships, they control child protective services. The same types of government employees also run those organizations. And it's a curiosity to me, why hasn't the Epstein Island list been released yet? Anyways, it just makes me scratch my head. Let's keep going.
How does this work? So yeah, that's a really cool part of my job is I don't have to worry about stuff like that.
Okay, so What's the Matter You says that this is a private school. Okay, that might be true, but it's happening in both public and private schools. So thank you, What's the Matter You. So let's talk about a public school. So this is a recent case of a public school teacher doing the same exact thing. Let's listen to what she has to say.
On butt plugs. And I said that I think that in high school groups, where unfortunately we know that students are having sex, and that I think that safe sex is always important, safe sex practices are always important, and that is that's queer sex, though that's not heterosex. And then you called it disgusting. So you told me that the sex that my counterparts have is disgusting, and I don't see how that is not openly homophobic.
The reality is it's not openly homophobic, because that means that you think.
So call queer sex disgusting?
That
You don't think that's homophobic?
That means that you think that only homosexual couples use butt plugs.
No, they absolutely
no,
don't.
Heterosexual couples use butt plugs as well.
Do you think that just butt plugs in general are disgusting?
So I'm saying that teaching children, minors, about this is disgusting.
Right. So I guess that comes into abstinence-only education versus safe sex education.
It's not abstinence only. It's not safe sex. At the end of the day, a butt plug is not going to create a child. It's not going to have an issue on a person that relates to catching an STD, unless the actual butt plug is not properly sanitized.
Exactly, and I think that's what that book was detailing, is how to safely use those instruments.
Educate children on how to use butt plugs.
Exactly.
Children, if you're an adult and that is what you want to do, if that's what stimulates you and gets you off, have at it.
6 a time.
Are you a parent?
I'm not a parent.
Of course not. You're not a parent.
Of course
Okay.
not.
And you are a parent.
He's a recruiter.
What the hell is even that?
And so, as a father, 3, 2 boys and a girl, I don't want anyone teaching my child how to use sex toys of any kind. That is.
So again, we just got to see a public school teacher as well as a private school teacher, and you can just see the entire education system filled with far left, basically gay rights activists, LGBTQ activists, many of them who don't have kids. And many parents are complaining they're trying to recruit our children into their movement under the auspices of diversity, equity, and inclusion, or what's the other one? Critical race theory, whatever it might be. Basically making it like a Berkeley college campus, trying to turn public schools into like the Berkeley college campuses where they learned about safe spaces and how to censor speech of anyone they disagree with. And that's kind of what's going on. Manny Quinn calls it devaluation. Kevin Bernarski, I'm a little behind too. But that's a play on words too. I hope you don't have a big behind because you might be the next target. So let's, so that was basically just to give you sort of a segue into what's going on in the public school system and why so many people are pulling their kids out of all schools, including private schools, because you have teachers like this who simply are outside the presence or permission of the parents doing this. And in some states like California, if you complain about it, you can literally have your child taken away from you by Child Protective Services for engaging what they call hate speech. And why do I know this? Well, because I'm a lawyer and I've represented parents who didn't like it that their son was classified as a girl and secretly being transitioned by public school teachers. And we see that the penalties also for these teachers, a lot of male public school teachers, by the way, far, far, far greater than anybody in the church. I think it's like an 80% greater chance that a male in the school system will try to do these types of things to young boys than in the church system. There's actually statistics on that, because I always hear people say, oh, well, they'll do that at church too. And it's like, well, okay, but how is that a valid argument, even if it wasn't a higher instance in the schools? I mean, why would you want to send your kid to some crazy church where that's okay? It's like, I just don't understand the arguments made by the leftists that since it's happening in some churches, that it's okay for male public school teachers to do it to little boys. I don't get it. Give me a bunch of ones if you think I'm crazy. Give me a bunch of twos if you agree with me. So that just had to do with what's going on in the news right now. We have, and that was obviously an African-American male, very upset that this they, them, their public school teacher is trying to teach little kids about butt plugs. So what do you guys think? Put it in the comments if you think it's okay to teach little kindergartners about butt plugs and gay sex and stuff, or do you think that schools shouldn't be political re-education camps and instead should be places where kids learn reading, writing, and arithmetic, and all that stuff should be left up, all that other stuff should be left up to the parents? And give me a bunch of threes if you think that it's just too far gone and that public schools are basically Marxist re-education camps and that you should homeschool your kids unless you want your son to become feminized or whatever. You want to get your kids out of there. I'd like to see what you guys think. So let's get into the next part of the DEI video series. This is a video that was sent to me by one of my members named James. And let's see what the first woman mayor who goes insane got arrested for.
We're going to see. First, she violates her citizens' First Amendment rights by shutting them down in public meetings. Take a look.
Considered to be outrageous claims.
You're not going to sit here and assault me, lady I never met. Don't call my name because I don't know what book you're reading and I don't care.
Enough is enough.
This is a personal matter. It's not about criticizing. You can criticize my policy. You stop it.
Let the people
You stop it.
City Council meeting on September 6th, resident comments were shut down by the mayor. A federal judge issued a preliminary injunction to the city of East Point and Mayor Owens Wednesday, ordering that residents not be blocked from praising or criticizing public officials.
Then as crime gets out of control, she blames the residents for rising crime rates.
So you can never say the mayor disappointed you. You all disappoint me.
East Point's mayor putting her constituents on blast.
So don't blame the mayor for your city. Blame yourselves. Because it's deep-rooted.
Oh yeah, if that's not enough, this mayor was also convicted of fraud while mayor.
East Point Mayor Monique Owens in court Thursday via Zoom, and on the wrong side of the law. Owens faces a felony fraud charge. The judge gave her a $10,000 personal bond.
This story is crazy. This is Mayor Monique Owens, the first Black and first woman mayor of East Point, Michigan.
Thanks,
Now
James.
to a story of a Metro Detroit woman who's breaking down barriers both in her community and for the next generation of young leaders.
We are talking about Monique Owens, the first Black woman to ever hold the title of mayor in East Point. And tonight, in honor of Black History Month, 7 Action News reporter Andrea Isom shows us how she's making a lasting difference in the world.
To give this story the absolute justice it deserves, I think we need to go back in time just a little bit to a monumental moment in history in Metro Detroit. East Point, Michigan, its motto, the gateway to Macomb County, a family town. But now it can also be known as the city that has done something it had never done before.
I, Monique Owens, do solemnly swear. Do solemnly swear to perform the duties of mayor. Of mayor.
I am the mayor of East Point.
36-year-old Mayor Monique Owens took the oath of office in November of 2019 as the first Black woman to ever hold this title, a position that comes with great pride for Mayor Owens and an incredible amount of responsibility. What do you reflect upon?
The people that came before me.
Now, this is a great story. There have been many Black mayors, politicians all over the country that have been successful on both sides of the political aisle. But the issue here is when you make such a big fuss over the first of anything, being a representative of the entire group, that has its consequences. If the person's a crook or not capable of being successful in that position, then people can also point to that person as representing the entire.
Yeah, it really does. It really, and look, you know, I'm all about merit, right? But unfortunately, people like this mayor say that merit is actually racist and patriarchal, because that's what they teach you on the college campuses now. And it's a form of what they call cultural Marxism, where they've replaced money with race. And so that's always their excuse. It's that it's really racist. Anything that you say against me while I'm in office has to do with my race and not because I'm a crook. And so the vast majority of people who are critical thinkers look at that and they go, this person's crazy. I can never vote Democrat again. And that's why people like me are leaving the Democrat Party in droves, because we believe in hard work and family values, the ability to defend our family under the Second Amendment. And we don't buy into all this Berkeley College nonsense. The Camel Toe Harris, Tim Walz putting tampon machines in the men's room. That was just the straw that broke the camel's back. And I would say that's why the Democrat Party is on life support right now, and why they need to flood the country with people and get them on welfare. That's the only way they're going to be able to get votes. Anyways, let's keep going.
Group in a negative way. Now, this is especially true when it comes to places like Dalton, Illinois, and East Point, Michigan. Now, the East Point mayor, when she got elected and got into power, she straight up became a tyrant, denying citizens the simple right to speak at a public hearing. She did not want to allow citizens to criticize the way she was running the government.
And that's what they do at the colleges too. They'll say, if it goes against our cultural Marxist worldview, anything that you say is called hate speech. And that's how they're doing it. They say it's hate speech. They're just copying the playbook out of the United Kingdom and Germany, because that's what they do over there. If the government disagrees with it, it's hate speech. You say something bad about an illegal alien criminal mass murder that you imported into the country, well, that's hate speech and you're going to prison. And that's what they're trying to do here in the United States. And I would say very similar to what's going on in the Lane Myers case as well. By the way, guys, catch me tomorrow as well. I have some top secret shocker updates that I'm going to share with you that I've learned from discovering the statute in Arizona, the harassment statute in Arizona, and how that's being used as a weapon against Lane, and how I believe, based on the research that I've done, that I believe there is a high statistical probability that Lane will either win that charge right now on some kind of an extraordinary writ or motion, or on appeal if a jury convicts him because he's not allowed to even bring up the fact that this person that he allegedly harassed is a government employee. So we'll get into that one tomorrow night, but I want you guys to stick around because I see how free speech has been weaponized by the left to silence their political opposition. We saw that with the lockdowns where you weren't allowed to talk about safe and effective and even to this day, if you talk about certain things on YouTube that were brought to you and I by Big Pharma, we'll automatically have our accounts blown out for misinformation, even though the overwhelming majority of scientists that are speaking out about it now agree with what we're saying. But because the World Health Organization is in bed with Google and big tech, they get to decide what truth and falsity is and get your account canceled, many people say. So oh my gosh, thank you so much, James. I got a $5 vote from James Forbes, $5. Thank you, brother. And what's the matter? You said, can't vote this demon, so I vote that demon instead. Well, hey, look, man, I get it. I always vote for the better of two evils. And so I do agree with you that politicians in general are not good. And that's why I believe we should be trying to put people into office who don't even want to get elected. I believe it was Thomas Aquinas who said we should put people into positions of power who know the law and mean to keep it well. And since we know that absolute power corrupts absolutely, I'm sure we would all agree that it's best that we have people in office for a limited period of time and we force them to go back out into the workplace and be subjected to the draconian laws that they're trying to force us to abide by. Because remember, look, most of these guys, they get into politics, they got a couple $100,000 in the bank. All of a sudden they're doing all these trades, making millions or even billions like the Pelosi's. And of course, the leftist news media runs interference for them, like CNN and PMS, runs interference for them and calls you a racist, bigot, or homophobe if you bring it up at all, the fact that they've enriched themselves at your expense. So a lot of people call it insider trading, but if you look it up on Google or you look it up on Wikipedia, it's all just whitewashed. Oh, no, there's no such thing. These people don't engage in insider trading. It's like, really? Then how did they get rich? I mean, these people can barely spell. They don't know how to talk, and they're clearly anti-American, pro-communist China. How is it then that they're able to make all this money when they have a salary of $100,000 or $200,000 a year? That's what a lot of people are telling me. And that's why these videos, by the way, these DEI videos that I've been doing are more popular than the Cop Watch videos. One of the videos that I ran the other day, a short, has almost 1 million views in less than 2 days. It just tells me that people are sick and tired of the government dictating to them all this craziness in this anti-white, anti-male nonsense that people just want to be free. They want to be treated equally. And that goes both ways. Whenever the government comes in and tries to pit one group against another, that a lot of people are complaining about that. And I think that's why these videos are so popular. And of course, it goes against my notions of justice. Being a civil rights lawyer as well, it's like, that's crazy. That violates equal protection. That's crazy that you're going to try to treat someone differently because they're a different skin color. They should all be treated equally, not, you shouldn't be putting people to the front of the line like a dude because he likes to ball another dude at the front of the line, right? Over sexual preference, or put a woman at the front of the line over a guy like in the Marine Corps when she can't even pass the same physical qualifications. I mean, if they really want to be equal, right, then they should be able to do the equal work, right? I mean, that's what a lot of people are telling me. I want to know what you guys think. Put it in the comments, but let's get into, this is a big deal, guys. What I'm learning from my YouTube channel is the vast majority of people out there don't support what the left and what the news media is pushing. It's a very small minority. And when I do these videos, I'm seeing it with my own eyes. It's like, who is paying these guys to push all this propaganda that no one agrees with? It's the craziest thing. Let's go.
Take a look.
She tends to bully, it looks like, senior citizens.
You'll see why East Point resident Mary Hall Rayford says that.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna stop you right there, or we're gonna stop the council meeting. I'm gonna have a point of order, and I'm gonna talk over you. This is gonna be one of those meetings y'all never seen before.
East Point Mayor Monique Owens cut her off during public comment with just under 3 minutes of Mary's allotted time remaining, and it happened to 2 other people at the same September meeting.
The outrageous claims
You're not going to sit here and assault me, lady I never met. You are out of line. You are out of line. Now, do you want to stand there and talk about your cats and your dogs?
Hey, so what do you guys think? Is this the kind of public servant that you would want? A public servant? It seems to me like when these DEI type people get put into positions of power, they all kind of act the same way, right? They want to silence people. They want to use the police as their private security force. They want to try to jail their political opponents like Letitia did over, I think it was New York, which we'll get into in a minute. What do you guys think about that? Give me a bunch of ones if you think this person is automatically disqualified for not letting her constituent speak, and that it's a violation of her First Amendment right, her constituents' First Amendment right to silence her the way this mayor is doing. It's shameful as far as I'm concerned. A total lack of proper cultured, educated, couth, and right, just proper etiquette to treat people like this. I mean, it reminds me of something you would see at a trailer park, not something that you should see as a government official. What do you guys think?
In the community, but don't talk about me.
Now, Mayor Owens is not new to the game. She's actually a former officer and ran for city council back in 2018 and lost.
Monique Owens is a Wayne County Sheriff's deputy. She lives in East Point. After her car was stolen, she decided to run for council. If she won, she did not know that she'd become the first African-American to serve on East Point City Council. She lost by 816 votes.
As a Wayne County officer, I want to make a difference in where I lived at, because I make a difference where everybody else live at. Of course, I want to make a difference where I live.
Now, under Mayor Owens' leadership, crime spiked, and the citizens blamed the mayor. But the mayor made it clear it was not her fault. It was the citizens' fault, and they shouldn't blame the mayor.
So you can never say the mayor disappointed you. You all disappoint me.
East Point's mayor putting her constituents on blast.
So don't blame the mayor for your city. Blame yourself, because it's deep-rooted.
Mayor Monique Owens closed the January 17th council meeting with a 15-minute fireworks-filled finale after starting out with remarks honoring Dr. Martin Luther King for his teachings on love and unity. Owens making it clear she's sick of taking unfair criticism for what residents call a rise in crime.
So if straight up not allowing citizens to speak in a public forum is not enough, and then blaming them for the rise in crime and the mayor doing a bad job is not enough, the mayor was then arrested for fraud. See, the mayor applied for COVID funds, claiming she had a business that was veteran-owned. And that business also had over 100 employees. So the state gave her $10,000 in COVID relief. But when prosecutors looked into it, they found it to be fraud.
This afternoon, Mayor Owens was arraigned on a charge of false pretenses, a 5-year felony, accused of lying on a COVID relief application in 2020 and receiving a $10,000 CARES Act grant from Macomb County.
The charges come about as a result of obtaining these funds on the application process, as well as some of the information that was provided that wasn't true.
Prosecutor Peter Lucido says the grant was for an LLC Owens owns. According to public record, the mayor has 4 businesses in her name.
This fall, the 39-year-old mayor was charged for falsely stating on a 2020 CARES Act grant that her business, Naturally Funny Talent Agency, was 51% veteran-owned. It's not, and that it had more than 100 employees. It doesn't. Owens received $10,000 from the grant and in September was ordered to pay that money back in restitution, which she did.
So the sitting mayor is now arrested for fraud, and she was arraigned on those fraud charges. Here's her arraignment.
East Point Mayor Monique Owens in court Thursday via Zoom, and on the wrong side of the law. Owens faces a felony fraud charge. The judge gave her a $10,000 personal bond.
We don't believe that she's a flight risk. She does have significant ties to the community. But the outstanding allegation of fraud is about receiving $10,000 for a CARES Act disclosure.
Obviously, it's just an allegation. There's no proof presented that she did anything wrong.
Since Owens was sworn in as the first Black woman elected as East Point's mayor in 2021, she's had a rocky time in office.
A rocky time indeed. So the evidence was so overwhelming against the mayor, she took a plea deal and was sentenced, but she was allowed to finish her term as mayor.
We begin tonight with that courtroom clash between the mayor of East Point and the judge.
Now that is, what do you guys think? Is that a good look that someone who is basically just agreed that they're a fraudster would have the balls to stay in office? And that's the issue that I have. You know, if you're in a political office, you need to have clean hands. What do you guys think? Give me a bunch of ones if you think it's disgraceful that after she pled out to a fraud charge that she stayed in office, or give me a bunch of twos if you think I'm a racist, bigot, and homophobe for not wanting her to stay in office and finish out her term, even though she's pled out to basically what amounts to criminal fraud. What do you guys think?
During her sentencing hearing today, Monique Owens is now sentenced to 6 months probation. She also has to perform 100 hours of community service for misusing COVID-19 relief money for her personal business.
Now, the mayor tried to maintain her innocence while being sentenced for fraud, claiming that she was not the problem, but the judge wasn't having that.
Even though I fled, I know that I am not a problem.
Even though in September, East Point Mayor Monique Owens pled no contest for fraudulently applying for a grant, Thursday, at her sentencing, she said to cameras,
Don't believe the allegations that you have heard about me.
The Macomb County judge didn't take that well.
Are you talking to the TV or are you talking to me as the judge? Because I don't think you're talking to me as the judge. And you're really telling me you did absolutely nothing wrong, and therefore this case should be proceeding differently.
The judge ultimately sentenced her to 100 days of community service and 6 months probation, along with a few choice words.
Personally, I think you are a disappointment to our community and to the citizens of East Point.
Now, with all these problems, being arrested, violating people's rights, the whole thing, the mayor ran for re-election and lost, only getting 14% of the vote. I still can't believe 14% of the people voted for her.
Can you believe that?
14%.
14%.
We start in
Crazy.
East Point.
Unofficial results show that Michael Kleinfeld.
And I can't imagine what 14% of the population would vote for someone who's guilty, who's pled guilty of fraud. I mean, I could understand if somebody was convicted by a politically charged jury in a Democrat state by someone like Letitia James, who made up a bunch of BS charges that are soon going to be reversed on appeal. But when you plead out to the charge and admit that you're guilty and then engaged in this, I can't believe that even the dumbest 14% of the population would vote to reelect her. What do you guys think? How high do you think the IQ was of the 14% that voted her? I would say it's probably a minus 50%. What do you guys think?
We'll move on to the November election along with Mary Hall Rayford. Incumbent Mayor Monique Owens lost with only 14% of the votes.
All right, so it's time to keep it 100. Both parties do this, the Republicans and Democrats.
That's true.
Here are two quick examples. Justice Thomas. On the Supreme Court, he's a diversity hire. He was picked because he was black to replace the first black Supreme Court Justice, Thurgood Marshall. Essentially, they were creating a black seat. And they were called out for this when Justice Thomas was nominated. Here is President Bush, who nominated Thomas, and Justice Thomas being confronted with those questions.
If I could follow up, I mean, there are many people who felt that in fact that was a plus, not that it was a factor or a quota, but that in fact since the court represents all the people, there ought to be a minority member. Did you at all feel that way?
Oh yeah, but I don't feel there's a quota. I don't feel that I had to nominate a black American at this time for the court. I express my respect for the ground that Mr. Justice Marshall plowed, but I don't feel there should be a black seat on the court or an ethnic seat on the court, if that's what your question is. I would reiterate, I think he's the best man, and if credit accrues to him for coming up through a tough life as a minority in this country, so much the better. So much the better. I love what he said at the end. It proves you can do it. Get the job done. And so if that does nothing but enhance the court, in my view. But I just really want you to know we looked at this list with an idea of really finding the best, and I think that's what we did. Yeah, Charles.
Judge, a question for you. What do you say to critics who say the only reason you're being picked is because you're black?
I think a lot worse things have been said. I disagree with that, but I'll have to live with it.
Now, Justice Thomas is highly qualified, but everyone knew what was going on, right? They were having one black guy replace another black guy. Do you really think that was a coincidence? Now, in hindsight, I think Justice Thomas has proven that not only he's qualified, he's been a fantastic justice, even though I don't agree with most of the things that he says. But you can argue over substance, but qualifications, the man is highly qualified. And Democrats do this too. Here is Biden straight up claiming that his Supreme Court pick is going to be a diversity hire. He's only going to pick a black woman.
You have said you would put a black woman on the court should a spot open up, but there are groups calling for you to release a list of specific names you'd put on the court. Are you going to do that?
We are putting together a list of a group of African-American women who are qualified and have the experience to be in the court. I am not going to release that until we go further down the line of vetting them as well.
Now, with all that said, I think there are two things can be true at the same time. Even though Justice Thomas, Justice Jackson are diversity hires, they are highly qualified for those positions. So it's a different time.
I don't know. Do you guys think that Ketanji Jackson not being able to define the difference between a male and a female makes her qualified? To me, I think she probably failed a biology class. Give me a bunch of ones if you think that your Supreme Court justice should be able to define the difference between a male and a female. Give me a bunch of twos if you think that men can be women and that we should have tampons in the male restroom. Let's go.
Type of diversity hire. Some people may say it's unfair because they were hired just based on their skin color, and others would say it's diversity in action. Wherever you fall on that spectrum, I don't care. But I think the dangerous part here is when we start talking about Tiffany A. Hilliard from Dalton and this East Point mayor, because I think they were both non-qualified people who became mayor just because they checked the boxes. And those boxes were being black and being the first woman. And when you just check boxes and don't check qualifications, you get rampant corruption, as you see in Dalton and as you see with this mayor. Now, one thing I also want to leave you with is think about this. What about the next black woman who wants to become mayor of one of these?
It's going to hurt her.
She's going to have this.
It's going to hurt her big time. What these other ladies did is going to damage this other woman because people are going to stereotype her as another corrupt black female mayor. It's a disgrace. And that's why I tell you guys, you should stop voting for people and putting people into positions of power because of their gender, their race, their sexual preference, and start putting them there solely because of their qualifications.
Stain of these horrible mayors doing such a bad job. The corruption, the violation of rights, all of those things are going to be weights on the next black female mayor, if there is one. And the reason why is because people are going to look to these first and say, look, when we did it, look what happened. And that would be unfair to a qualified black woman who actually runs and can do the job. Just because people wanted to check a box earlier has now made it harder for the next black woman to achieve this. It didn't help. And I think that's the key point here.
That's right. What do you guys think? By the way, this guy, again, this is, I'm trying to get this guy to come on my show. I really like this guy. His name's Nate the Lawyer. Nate the Lawyer. Hopefully you guys can see that. Yeah. I really like Nate the Lawyer. I think he's legit and he's super, super, like unbiased. He just calls it like he sees things. And I love having his videos on because obviously you can't accuse him of being a racist for speaking the truth. So now, Brandon Mitchell, good seeing you. Gloria Ad, Howard Clay, Kurt Bronson, Randall Hill. Thank you guys for joining me on this Sunday. Alan Hubbs. By the way, guys, thanks for the donations and stuff. What's the matter, you? Always good to have you, the voice of reason in the sea of craziness. Manny Quinn. Let me see here. Stomper. Yes, love having Stomper here. Now, Jason North Edge says Adolf Trump's convictions aren't getting overturned. I would bet you I'll bet you $100 that they are going to get overturned. I mean, there was no legal basis to bring it. They couldn't bring it under federal law. So they tried to find a way to bring it under a state law but they had to bring it in a different way because the statute of limitations had been expired. This was just a partisan Democrat a use of lawfare, and it really is not a good look for the Democrat Party to try and prevent, if you want to call him Adolfo Trump, from running for president. And all it did was make him into a martyr because people know that there were BS convictions. and it was totally political. That's the problem that I have with it, is what you guys are doing by using Soviet style use of the court system is by basically showing the rest of the world that you'll do anything to defeat your political enemies, because you know that you can't win based upon your ideas. You know that your ideas, like putting tampon machines in the men's restroom, just don't sell with the majority of the American people. So let's get into the next video. Here's another, what they call a DEI hire. And you can't make this stuff up, guys. This is someone who allegedly was even an illegal alien. And this is what I don't understand. Why do we allow illegal aliens into our country to begin with, who have no loyalty to our country? The same people who support this are the same people who'd go to a Lakers game and get in a fist fight if you support the Clippers over the Lakers. But when it comes to foreigners that aren't supposed to be in this country, they don't have the same loyalty to their own country. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. Let's go.
Who was voted into the Boston City Council.
Tanya Fernandez Anderson has a lot of firsts on the Boston City Council. She is the first Muslim, the first African immigrant, and the first formerly undocumented immigrant to serve.
Your votes here sometimes are racist. You move sometimes in a way that hurts my people. And then when I get up to stand up and talk, all she talks about is black stuff. As you should. I am here to represent every single black woman and man that suffers in the community. God has my back. What do I have to do in this council in order to get respect as a black woman?
A few moments later.
Boston City Councilor Tanya Fernandez Anderson has just been taken into custody.
Here's video from moments ago of the FBI outside a Dorchester home. We told you earlier this week the city councilor is under federal investigation, but neither she nor the city would tell us why. Officials cited the U.S. Attorney's Office, saying the integrity of a grand jury investigation would be impaired by disclosing information.
Many months later.
Developing tonight, Boston City Councilor Tanya Fernandez Anderson will plead guilty to federal charges in her corruption case. And that's not all. She also said she will resign from city council.
So the first.
Now, just really quickly, guys, do you really think that someone who screams and yells and constantly, anytime she is scrutinized, starts bringing up their race as the reason why don't you think that loses the power? I mean, it used to be when someone called someone a racist, it really meant something. But nowadays, when people call people a racist, people just kind of look at them like they're crazy because it's being used for anything. Oh, you don't like the way I tied my shoe? Oh, you're racist. Or, you voted for Republican. Clearly, that makes you a racist. And people are just like, that's not racist. What are you talking about? So it's just people like her and her constant drumbeat, according to a lot of my viewers, it basically has made it to where people just don't really care anymore. Call me whatever you want. You're a cuckoo. You're a nut job, and I'm not going along with it anymore. It just doesn't have the power that it used to have. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree with what I just said.
Former undocumented, first Muslim, first African immigrant to be elected to city council has pled guilty to federal corruption charges and is resigning her post. Let's talk about it. This is Tanya Fernandez Anderson, a trailblazer in Boston politics. She's the first Muslim, the first African immigrant, and the first formerly undocumented immigrant to serve in Boston City's council.
Tanya Fernandez Anderson will be the first Muslim and first African immigrant on the council, having come to Boston from Cape Verde as a child.
Now, she also has the title of being the first Boston councilwoman to face a federal indictment for corruption charges. Now, for those good people who have seen this story before and have heard these facts before, you can fast forward to the end to get the most recent update. But for those of you who never heard this story before, the facts are pretty insane. Now, Anderson was elected to the Boston City Council in 2021, and she was hailed as a voice for marginalized communities.
Adaptability. I mean, look, I was formerly undocumented, right? So the first African immigrant.
Now, she was an illegal alien, and she got lucky that she lived in a sanctuary city. She violated U.S. immigration laws, and she clearly has zero loyalty to our Constitution or our way of life. Let's keep going.
I come from a different world, and I adapted here in the U.S., this amazing country, and learned to love Roxbury.
No, after being elected, she decided, hey, you know what? Let me hook up my family with comfy jobs here at City Council and started employing people like her sister and brother.
The commission says Fernandez Anderson appointed her sister director of constituent services. She paid her $65,000, later raised it to $70,000 and threw in a $7,000 bonus. Total salary $77,000. The commission says in June of last year, Fernandez Anderson appointed her son office manager and paid him $52,000 a year. The next month, she raised that to $70,000. The counselor ended the employment of her sister and...
Everybody give me a bunch of ones for Mr. Gold showing up. By the way, Mr. Gold, I did some additional research on the harassment statute in Arizona, and tomorrow I'm going to do an expose on what I think is going to end up happening ultimately with that harassment case. I just don't think there, and I've told you guys this before, I don't think there's any legal basis for it. I think on its face, as applied, it's vague and ambiguous, and as applied, it's being applied improperly, especially because the so-called victim is also a public official on public tax funding, and he was simply trying to hold her accountable as a taxpayer and a constituent. Let's keep going.
Son in August of 2022.
She even went as far as to ask the city council to raise the salary of staff members so she can pay even more money to her family members.
Boston city councilors control their own budget, deciding for themselves how much to spend on everything from...
By the way, guys, give me a bunch of ones for my homeboy, David Ahern. Really great to see you here, mate. Cheers. Let's keep going with the movie here. All right, Jimmy.
Salary and bonuses to postage. And Fernandez Anderson advocated for bigger budgets. Here she is in April of last year, just 1 month before giving her relative the bonus.
The point is that we're not paying our staff properly.
She and other counselors asked to increase their staff salary budget from $315,000 to $390,000 and suggested
to leave the decision-making to discretion of the counselor.
Now, after it was found out that she was employing her family members to these positions at City Council, the ethics board said, well, you can't do that because of the conflict of interest, and then gave her a major fine for the violations.
The State Ethics Commission leveling a $5,000 fine against Boston City Councilor Tanya Fernandez Anderson for putting her sister and her son on the city payroll.
Now, members of the City Council in Boston make between $103,000 to $125,000 a year. But that wasn't enough money for Anderson, who was behind on her rent and was in a financial disaster personally.
Her personal finances in shambles, including missing rent and car payments, old state ethics fines, and bank overdraft fees.
Really quickly, guys, Aunt Pisano is one of my esteemed members, and Aunt, anyways, please don't be muting out Aunt, okay? Aunt's one of our homeboys, homegirls, whoever she or he is, they, them, whatever. So if someone's doing that, don't do it. And Aunt, I can assure you it's not me. I really, really value you being here. So don't assume that it's me for sure. And if it's my mods, please leave Ant alone. Ant hasn't done anything wrong. Ant, I'm going to make Ant a moderator. I'm going to keep rolling this. Stay with me, Ant. I'll make you a moderator in just a second.
If we love people and we care about people, we respect them. And if you respect them, you pay them.
Now, here's a message from our sponsor, Hillsdale College. History, economics, the great works of literature, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution. Did you study any of these things in school? Probably not. Or even if you did, maybe it's time for a refresher. Time and technology have changed the game, but it hasn't changed the basics, the fundamental truths about the world we live in. Hillsdale College is offering more than 40 free online courses. That's right, more than 40 free online courses. I'm digging into their Constitution 101 right now, and it's a game changer. 12 self-paced lectures that show you how the founders designed our government, how Lincoln kept the Union together during the Civil War, and how things like progressivism and big government have chipped away at our fundamental rights. For instance, like free speech on the internet. Now, as you know, I do a lot of stories on public corruption. And if you want to understand why today's corruption stories are even possible, and more importantly, how to stop them, this course is your blueprint. Now go to hillsdale.edu/Nate to enroll. There is no cost and it's easy to get started.
By the way, everybody, Aunt Pisano, welcome Aunt Pisano as a new moderator of Team MPE. Just remember this really quickly, Aunt, that with great power comes great responsibility. The main reason that I make people moderators isn't so they can flex and time people out. It's so that my other moderators will know not to mod them out. because you believe in natural law, you believe in the concept of your rights come from your creator, not from the government. And because of that, the government can't take them away. Just like our founding fathers wrote in the Declaration of Independence, which is based upon natural law, just like our Bill of Rights is based upon John Locke and Thomas Aquinas. Natural law goes all the way back to Socrates, Aristotle. But let's get back into the video. I really like Nate the Lawyer, guys. Guys, please reach out to Nate the Lawyer and ask him to either have me come on his show or have him come on my show as a guest. I really like this guy, and the fact that he supports Hillsdale College tells me that he's a legit dude. I'm blown away by this guy. I'd love to invite him to the SHOT Show and have him meet with me and Dick Heller before Dick passes away. He's getting old, and I think Nate would really get a kick out of hanging out with me at a pro-Second Amendment show in Nevada. What do you guys think? Let's go.
That's hillsdale.edu/Nate to register. Link is in the description and in the pinned comments. So go learn about your rights so you can defend your freedom. Now, back to the madness. So for those of you who follow the Tiffany Hinyard saga, this sounds a lot like that. She's missing rent payments. She's missing car payments. She can't pay her fines from the state, and her bank has overdrafted her accounts. So how are you going to get some more money if you're a city council person? Well,
maybe she could cry racism. That's usually the answer, right, guys? What do you guys think?
Oh, it seems like she put a kickback plan into place.
Ms. Fernandez-Anderson was facing financial difficulty in 2023. Part of that financial difficulty stemmed from a sanction that was imposed by the State Ethics Commission of $5,000 for Ms. Fernandez-Anderson hiring immediate family members in her Boston City Council office. And in around that same time in 2023, Ms. Fernandez-Anderson, the grand jury alleges, hatched this scheme to funnel bonus payments, taxpayer money into her own pocket in the tune of approximately $7,000. Specifically, despite the fact that she was under investigation by the State Ethics Commission, Ms. Fernandez-Anderson hired another family member on her staff at Boston City Hall to handle constituent services. That staff member was related to her, but Ms. Fernandez-Anderson falsely represented to City Hall that there was no familial relationship. That is staff member A in the indictment. Ms. Fernandez-Anderson then went on to tell that staff member A that she would give that person a $13,000 bonus. That bonus of $13,000 was more than twice as much as Ms. Fernandez was paying to the rest of her staff combined in bonuses. But that supersized bonus came with a hitch. Ms. Fernandez-Anderson told staff member A that she would need to fork over $7,000 in cash back to Ms. Fernandez-Anderson. Staff member A agreed. The indictment alleges that after staff member A received the deposit of approximately $10,000 after taxes in her bank account, staff member A was directed to make cash withdrawals. And she did that in the days following the receipt of the money in her bank account. $3,000 on May 31st, 2023, $3,000 on June 5th, 2023,
hey, Jody,
and $4,000 on the afternoon of Friday, June 9th, 2023. And shortly after that last cash withdrawal, Ms. Fernandez-Anderson and staff member A texted each other, and they arranged for a meetup in a bathroom in City Hall. That meeting happened in the bathroom around 4 o'clock or so on that Friday.
Can't make this stuff
and
up.
When they met inside that bathroom, Ms. Fernandez-Anderson put $7,000 in cash in her pocket, the grand jury alleges. All of that money was funded by the taxpayers of the city of Boston.
So the indictment came down, the corruption seems to be exposed, and now it's time for Councilor Anderson to be arrested. Here's what happened.
Boston City Councilor Tanya Fernandez-Anderson has just been taken into custody.
Here's video from moments ago of the FBI outside a Dorchester home. We told you earlier this week the city councilor is under federal investigation, but neither she nor the city would tell us why. Officials cited the U.S. Attorney's Office, saying the integrity of a grand jury investigation would be impaired by disclosing information.
So as you will see, she's wearing the same coat and jacket that she got arrested in. She goes in front of of the judge and says, hey, I am not guilty of these charges.
Developments in the story that has been unfolding all day. Boston City Councilor Tanya Fernandez Anderson leaving federal court in Boston this afternoon after pleading not guilty to corruption charges. She was arrested before dawn this morning. News Center 5 had the only camera there as the FBI took her into custody at her home. She is accused of taking thousands of dollars in city money in a kickback scheme.
Councilor Fernandez Anderson was here at the federal courthouse where she pleaded not guilty to all 6 federal charges she faces, and she was allowed to be released without having to post any bail. Now, she left the federal courthouse surrounded by cameras and reporters. She declined to make any comment, including when I asked her if she plans to resign from the Boston City Council. If convicted on these charges, she does face several years in prison.
Now, this councilwoman's finances are so bad that the judge had to appoint a government-funded attorney and said that eventually when she started getting some paychecks, she's going to have to pay the government back. But right now, she doesn't have enough money.
Well, obviously, it looks like her family member rolled on her, and that's how the grand jury got that information, guys. By the way, make sure to double tap that screen, hit that like and subscribe button. And if you want to support my channel besides super chats and buying memberships, pick up a copy of my book, My Journey to Becoming a Practicing Lawyer with No Law Degree or Undergrad, where I'll talk to you about the different states that offer law study programs throughout the United States, including California. In my journey, how I was able to do it without any undergrad or anything like that and become one of the most successful personal injury attorneys in the state of California. And now I teach people how to become lawyers without law school or with law school, if that's what they want to do. And then I do these shows for fun and because I just have a good time hanging out with you guys. Let's get back into the video and have a little bit more fun and talk about DEI hires and how they're destroying the country. Let's go.
To pay for an attorney.
The judge agreed to appoint a government-funded attorney for Fernandez Anderson, but said he thinks that in the future she may be required to pay for part of her defense. As a city councilor, she currently makes about $115,000 a year.
The city has to continue doing our business.
Boston Mayor Michelle Wu speaking publicly for the first time about the arrest of Boston City Councilor Tanya Fernandez Anderson. The mayor says while there is still a legal process that has to play out, she believes the city councilor should resign.
The charges are serious enough that I believe it is of the nature that is going to undermine the ability for the public to trust and have effective representation in this case. So I think I've made my views clear on that.
Now, let's just keep it real. This story isn't just about corruption. It's a cautionary tale about identity politics gone horribly wrong. She weaponized her status as a trailblazer to gain trust, only to betray the people who put her in that position. Now, the feds kind of had everything. They had witnesses, tapes, the money changing hands. They had it all. So Tanya Fernandez Anderson was pretty much caught. So she decided to plead guilty to the charges.
Boston City Councilor Tanya Fernandez Anderson plans to plead guilty to 2 charges in her federal corruption case. Now, we've been reviewing the court paperwork this afternoon, and it shows Fernandez Anderson will plead guilty to 1 charge of wire fraud, 1 charge of stealing from a program with federal funds, and in exchange, prosecutors will recommend a sentence of 1 year and 1 day in prison. There will be fines, restitution, and probation as well. Fernandez Anderson is accused of taking a $7,000 kickback from a relative that she hired to work at City Hall.
So Tanya Fernandez Anderson is likely going to jail. But now remember, she still was voted into the Boston City Council. She still has that seat. So she did the best thing, resigned.
We're here inside City Hall at her office. No
Shocker.
video, of course, there. Tonight, we know she has agreed, in fact, to step down. She's apologizing, and she's asking for forgiveness. Boston City Councilor Tanya Fernandez Anderson shown here as federal agents arrested her outside her home months ago. Now she's pleading guilty and resigning from the city council, saying, I would like to apologize to my constituents, supporters, and all who have been impacted. Please forgive me. I will be resigning. It is the right thing to do. In December, I asked her if she was innocent, and she couldn't say. Do you maintain your innocence, Councilor?
So I can't answer that question. What's your name?
Charmin.
Charmin from Channel 5.
Yeah.
Charmin, I've said that I can't answer that question. If you keep asking the same question, the same type of questions that lead anything.
Innocence is innocence.
And so I'm a human being.
Oh, she's going to blow a gasket. She's going to blow a gasket. She has zero self-control. Probably another. Here's a problem, guys. and I've said this also about Lane Myers, if you blow a gasket, it automatically makes you look like you're the guilty party. The best way to deal with people like this is just to be calm and just say, I've been at the advice of counsel, I can't answer that question, and move on. That's it.
Well, now, Tanya Fernandez Anderson then gave an interview to local news because she's trying to soften the blow of this major corruption scandal.
And we do begin tonight with an interview you'll only see right here on NBC 10 Boston. Boston City Councilor Tanya Fernandez Anderson is speaking out after agreeing to a guilty plea on corruption charges.
Now, we asked Councilor Fernandez Anderson about why she took the guilty plea and whether she views this as a self-brought-on error. She told us she was unable to answer those questions due to the ongoing case. Councilor Tanya Fernandez Anderson sitting down exclusively with NBC.
Well, how is it ongoing if she's already pled guilty? Is there something that I'm missing here? I mean, I've been practicing law for about 20 years now. How is there an ongoing case unless she's turned state witness? What do you guys think?
T10 as she prepares to resign from her District 7 seat. The emotions of just the last 2 or 3 months. What's this been like for you?
I'm not just a mom to 2 boys, as you know. I have actually 4 sons with my stepsons. I'm soon to be a grandma.
Why does that matter?
How do I do the right thing to...
Yeah, what a great example, right? What a great example. A freaking criminal who snuck into the country illegally, and now she's bummed out that she got caught, basically, right?
Sure that my family is safe, is stable.
Why come here today? A lot of people would say, maybe, I'll stay away. I won't get in the public eye today. Why come to council?
You shouldn't avoid conflict. You should face it. You should grow. You should take accountability.
Concerns that the trust may have been violated a bit for your constituents there in District 7?
Of course.
Now, to me, the saddest part about this story is that Tanya Fernandez Anderson had everything. She was formerly undocumented, overcame that, became a citizen and a member of city council. The American dream. She had it all. But at the end of the day, instead of helping push the cause forward, she became too greedy and wanted to enrich herself and now has to pay the consequences. So tell me what you think about Tanya Fernandez Anderson, former illegal alien, now city councilor. Do you think the 1 year is large enough? Do you think she should get more time? Tell me what you feel in the comments section. Again,
what do you guys think? I think that she should have never been allowed to be in government at all. She broke the laws of this country to sneak in, and then somehow she got legalized, which blows my mind. She shouldn't be in a position, unless she came up here when she was a kid, like to escape a country like El Salvador, for example, where she was still a minor and her parents just sent her up to escape a war or something. I can't imagine why anybody would allow her to be in politics. Clearly, she doesn't have any loyalty to this country. Her loyalty is to money and corrupt. Was it Chicago politics? I don't know. It seems like it's probably Chicago. Let's get into the next one. So, as we guys know, when it became known that Donald Trump was trying to run again for president, and we know that during his whole first presidency, there was a false narrative created by the left that he was like a Russian agent or whatever. And that was started by the Hillary Clinton campaign. That was after she destroyed 100,000 emails and smashed all of her phones and nothing happened to her, even though she was illegally using a private server in her basement to conduct official government business, including confidential and classified and even top secret government business. Nothing happened to her, but everybody wanted to go after Donald Trump. And so Letitia James and some other Democrat DEI appointments, many people say, went after Trump to try and get him convicted of crimes. They call it lawfare. And they just did the same thing to Marine Le Pen over in France. It's like the globalist left just has a penchant for trying to get their political enemies convicted of crimes because they know their ideas don't sell. And I've told you this before. Who is going to elect someone who thinks that it's okay to put a tampon machine in the men's restroom? Anyways, let's listen to what Orange Man has to say. It's a 14-minute video about what went down with Letitia. And let's just see what he has to say about what he considers to be lawfare against him.
James, she sued Trump over real estate fraud, and now the feds say she may have falsified mortgage documents.
All right, we got two very, very crazy political stories that both involve fraud. First, Attorney General Letitia James is accused of mortgage fraud because she listed her father as her husband on the mortgage application.
James reportedly also listed her father as her husband on mortgage applications.
And to show you how bad it is, here is the mortgage application. And then on the other side of the political spectrum, we got Tulsi Gabbard, who is being alleged to have voted illegally in Hawaii when she actually lives in Texas.
In the 2024 general election, months before Gabbard cast her ballot in her home state of Hawaii, Gabbard and her husband declared under oath that their residency in Texas, after buying a home in the Lone Star State and claiming a homestead tax break.
And if the voter has more than one home, there is a presumption that the property that gets the tax exemption is the person's residence. And remember, Gabbard designated her Texas home as a family homestead months before the general election.
That's rough.
All right, so let's go over the fraud allegations for Tulsi Gabbard and Letitia James.
That is rough.
Now, first things first, these are allegations and not facts, so treat them as such. Now, this is Letitia James. She's the Attorney General of the state of New York. Here is her victory speech after obtaining a judgment against the Trump organization.
Donald Trump engaged in deceptive business practices and tremendous fraud. Donald Trump falsely, knowingly inflated his net worth by billions of dollars to unjustly enrich himself, his family, and to cheat the system. Donald Trump may have authored the art of the deal, but he perfected the art of the steal. This long-running fraud was intentional, egregious, illegal. We showed the staggering extent of his fraud and exactly how Donald Trump and the other defendants deceived banks, insurance companies, and other financial institutions for their own personal gain.
Now, the irony of this situation is going to smack you in the face because the AG here, it's alleged that she essentially has done the same thing that she was holding Trump accountable for, mortgage fraud. Now, for those of you with very, very, very short memories, Letitia James had complained that the Trump organization had lied on mortgage and loan applications to get favorable rates, and those lies caused the state to lose money, and that's how she got her initial judgment. Now, all the while, people like Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, he was saying that this is something that people do all the time in New York real estate and that this was selective prosecution.
You've been doing real estate for decades. Does this case strike you as odd?
Well, let's leave out Trump for a minute and let's leave out politics and just talk about what happens in real estate development anywhere. So if you're a developer and you've got a building on a block anywhere in America and it's worth, let's say, $500 million and you want to build a building right beside it, you go to the bank and say, this building is worth $500 million. I'd like to borrow a construction finance loan against this asset, and I want you to tell me it's worth $500 million too. And the bank negotiates with you and says, well, no, we think it's worth $400 million. And you fight it out. You're always trying to show your assets in the brightest light with the sunshine you could possibly determine for them. You want them to be worth the very most, because you're only going to get a 40 or 50% loan to value, as it's called. Then you borrow that money. In the case of a $500 million asset, maybe you get $250 million, and you build a new building with a construction finance loan. And so that's what this case is all about. And by the way, forget about Trump. Every single real estate developer everywhere on earth does this. They always talk about their asset being worth a lot, and the bank says no. And that's just the way it is. But it's humorous in the sense that you have to sue every single real estate developer here in Miami, in Chicago, in Los Angeles, in Detroit, in Dallas. This is what they do every day. This is what the real estate game is all about. It's getting construction financing against stabilized assets.
So as you hear, businesses generally cut corners to get the best possible loan terms. And this is done every day. And you know who else is doing it? Letitia James. So the U.S. Federal Housing Administration authored this letter, which is a criminal referral to the Department of Justice, alleging that Letitia James has committed essentially mortgage fraud. Now, the first allegation goes back to 1983. Letitia James and her father purchased this home in Brooklyn, New York. Here's a picture of the Attorney General recently walking out of that home. And here is the mortgage application from 1983. And as you can see, it says right here, Robert James and Letitia James, his wife. But when you go down to the next page of the mortgage application, which is Exhibit G, it also says Robert James and Letitia James, his wife.
And just really quick, before we get further into this, I just want to point something out, that there was an unspoken agreement with the old system, like with Bill Clinton, for example. Before Bill Clinton, there was an unspoken agreement between both parties that they all knew that they were all corrupt, and they didn't use lawfare to try and prosecute the other political opponent. This is a new thing with the new young wokesters, right? The new young wokesters, the far left Marxist rainbow flag mafia BLM types have been using lawfare to try to prosecute and persecute their political enemies, pretty much starting with Obama. That's when it really started to go full steam. And now what's going on? Well, all the gloves are off now, guys. So now this is never going to end, because all the people that prosecuted Trump are guilty of far worse crimes, far worse, and documented. And the CIA and the FBI already have a dossier on all these people, right? That's how Hoover was able to stay in power so long and blackmail all the different presidents. Because, he probably had video of Kennedy getting it on with girls, and probably had video of, Roosevelt getting on with little boys or something, or whoever was in power when he was the director of the FBI. And now the gloves are off, guys. Both parties are going to keep doing this. As soon as you try to run for president, they're going to pull out their dossier. They'll go to their boss, whoever's in power, and go, as long as you guarantee me that I'll get my cushy government job and get a pension, maybe I'll get a cabinet position, I'll make sure that we get this guy thrown in jail. And it's just never going to end. Give me a bunch of ones if you guys agree that the woke mafia opened up the door to never-ending criminal persecutions and prosecutions of the other political party. And that's why now I think that the risk of unaliving candidates is going to go up and up and up, because it's no longer politics and it's a matter of keeping your butt out of jail. And I believe that is the primary reason why the same people who were BlackRock educated people tried to take out Trump. We see that the money path leads all the way to the Ukraine. We see all the money that Joe Biden sent over there. A lot of people accuse Joe Biden of using Ukraine as a money laundering vehicle for his family. And it's just never going to end, because there's billions of dollars at stake, guys. So what do you guys think? Give me a bunch of ones if you agree that when the woke mafia opened up the door to going after Trump, they opened up the door to having Trump and the other party go after them, and it's never going to end. Let's get back into this video and you'll kind of get a better idea of why I think that. Let's go.
Wife. So the Trump team says this is evidence of mortgage fraud. Now, before we get into the rest of the allegations, here's a quick word from our sponsor, Ethos. A couple of years ago, a close friend of mine passed away unexpectedly, and it really got me thinking about protecting my own family's future. That's why I want to tell you about the sponsor of this video, Ethos. They're making getting life insurance quick, easy, and affordable. And really think, what if something happened to you? How would your family take care of its rent or mortgage payments, tuition, or everyday bills? It's difficult keeping up with those things now, but just imagine if you and your income wasn't there. And that's what Ethos can give you. It can give you that peace of mind to know that your family will be taken care of, even if something happened to you. Now with Ethos, you can apply for affordable life insurance quickly and easily online, all without a medical exam. Just answer a few health questions and lock in your rate in as little as 10 minutes at ethos.com/Nate. You can get up to $3 million in coverage, and term life policies start as low as $10 a month. Plus, over 3 million families have trusted Ethos Life, which has a 4.8 out of 5 stars rating on Trustpilot with over 2,100 reviews. Now, go get your free quote today at ethos.com/Nate. That's ethos.com/Nate. And remember, life insurance isn't about protecting you. It's about protecting the people you love. Now let's get back to the allegations. Now, the Trump administration then points to another piece of information that seems to be fraudulent.
It's also raised about James's Brooklyn home. 2001 city records show it was a 5-family dwelling, which experts say would require a commercial property loan with perhaps higher interest rates. But James allegedly listed it as a 4-family unit. The James spokesperson would not say if any units have since been combined, as a property of 4 can be backed by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. often qualifying for better interest rates and a lower down payment.
But now the Trump administration wasn't finished. They found more allegations of fraud. See, Letitia James is the Attorney General of the state of New York. And to have that job, you must live in the state of New York. Your primary residency must be in the state of New York. But the Trump administration says it has documents to show that Letitia James claimed that her permanent residency was actually in Virginia.
This Norfolk, Virginia home is co-owned by Attorney General Letitia James. That, according to records that appear to show, she may have claimed that house as her principal residence. The Federal Housing Finance Agency director, who previously was a Trump fundraiser, sent a criminal referral to the Justice Department calling for a mortgage fraud investigation into James, alleging she appears to have falsified records to receive favorable loan terms. Sam Antar, an accountant by training and past convicted felon, first raised questions about James's property-related records.
If she did actually use it as a primary residence, she'd be disqualified automatically as the Attorney General. If she didn't actually use it as a primary residence, she would be committing mortgage fraud. So take one or the other.
Either way, the issue is going to be, are her official acts done while she fraudulently held office capable of being retroactively undone? Well, maybe or maybe not, but certainly when the Court of Appeal gets a hold of this case, I would say there's a 99% chance it's going to be thrown out.
Late this afternoon, James's office said the co-owner, her niece, used the Virginia home as her primary residence.
So, as you just heard, the question is going to be, did she live in New York or was her primary residence in Virginia? Now, if her primary residence is Virginia and she got the tax exemption, then that means that she couldn't be state AG because you have to live in New York to be state AG. Well, your primary residence has to be.
And by the way, give me a bunch of ones for what's the matter use comment, because that was the unspoken arrangement that both parties had prior to really Obama and his woke mafia getting into power, is that both sides would it was sort of gloves off, hands off. You don't go after major political candidates of either side because the lawfare door gets opened. But this younger crowd, the Berkeley woke mob, they don't abide by the old rules and they want to go after their political enemies, despite the fact that they're probably guilty of more crimes than their own political enemies. And they've used the power of the press, because we know the left controls the news media, and the education system to control the narrative to try to get out of being prosecuted. But they weren't counting on Donald Trump's populist message, his popularity. Even if it was a rigged election, it was just too big to rig when he had so much public popularity. And their criminal and civil charges and persecutions against Trump turned Donald Trump into a martyr. Give me a bunch of ones if you think the left going after Donald Trump made him even more popular, and that most of these leftists underestimated that what they were doing was actually strengthening him, because they're so used to living on the controlled speech of Berkeley or some leftist public institution that they didn't understand that that's not how the real world works, that the real world works based upon merit. And people see Trump, for the most part, as a self-made man who doesn't put up with anyone's crap. All right, let's keep going.
In New York, if you're state AG. So, do you think Tish James committed mortgage fraud after that big speech about fraud and Trump wanting favorable loan terms? It seems like she was doing the same thing like Kevin O'Leary said. But if you're on the left, this is the nightmare scenario for you. But if you're on the right, this is a great thing to show that, hey, her chickens have come home to roost. But now we're going to flip it, because Tulsi Gabbard has essentially the same problem. This is Tulsi Gabbard. She is currently the Director of National Intelligence for the United States of America. One of her big issues that she's tackling is voting security.
We have evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a very long time, and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast, which further drives forward your mandate to bring about paper ballots across the country so that voters can have faith in the integrity of our election.
Now, Tulsi Gabbard is from Hawaii and recently moved to Austin, Texas.
months before Tulsi Gabbard was sworn in as a director of national intelligence in the midst of her transformation from independent to Trump supporter.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
In March 2024, she bought a home in the politically red state of Texas. Soon after.
Now, here's what I want to know, guys. Here's what I want to know. How could the Trump administration be so inept to have not done the research on Tulsi and known that she was illegally voting? That's what I don't understand. Unless they put her there as a DEI appointment, knowing that they were going to get rid of her at some point. How could he be so incompetent as a president to not have her properly vetted? If these allegations are true, I mean, this is pretty bad. This is not a good look for President Trump, guys. Let's keep going.
The background on some of her frequent Fox News appearances changed from the slope of Oahu's Diamond Head crater.
You see them out pushing this so-called woke agenda
to a view of the Texas state capitol.
This is personal for me, this endorsement of President Trump.
A CNN investigation found that Gabbard declared herself a Texas resident.
Now, you may say, why is any of this important? Well, if you're a homeowner, you know about the homestead exemption. For those of you who don't know what that is, that means the house that you actually live in, you get a larger tax break on. Now, if this isn't your primary residence, but just some vacation property, then you're going to have to pay more taxes on that property. So in the case of Letitia James, when it came to the Virginia property, she said that that was her permanent residence because that gives you the lower tax rate. Now, this has more complications than just a tax exemption. See, you're only allowed to vote where you actually live, your primary residence. So the bottom line is, if Tulsi Gabbard is taking the homestead exemption and declaring her primary residence is in Texas, then technically it would be illegal for her to be voting in Hawaii because that wouldn't be her primary residence.
Gabbard rents a home in Hawaii.
So Gabbard may have an out. She could always amend her tax return and say it was done in error and then pay the tax on the homestead. However, it's not a good look. And this is why I always tell you guys, you should know the law and mean to keep it well, especially if you're going to be in political office, especially nowadays, guys. And you basically need to vote yourself a celibate minister, into office who's never committed a crime. You basically need Jesus of Nazareth as your political official, because now both parties are just going to be constantly, like George Soros and all of his bought and paid for prosecutors for the Democrat side are constantly going to be going after Republicans, and Republicans, whoever they are going to be going after the Democrats. It's never going to end.
She's lived in the Aloha State for many years. In March 2024, Gabbard bought a home in a suburb of Austin, Texas. In June 2024, she and her husband declared under oath that we are residents of the state of Texas, and their Texas home was designated as the family homestead. And she also claimed a homestead tax exemption on the house. But in the 2024 general election, Gabbard cast her ballot in Hawaii, and that's potentially a problem. Under Hawaiian election rules, an individual can only have one residence for voting purposes. And if the voter has more than one home, there is a presumption that the property that gets the tax exemption is the person's residence. Now remember, Gabbard designated her Texas home as a family homestead months before the general election. What is the problem here?
The problem appears to be that Ms. Gabbard is claiming that she's a resident of Hawaii, that she is eligible to vote on Hawaii races in Hawaii because that's where she lives. And she's also at the same time claiming that she's a resident of Texas.
Now, Tulsi Gabbard denies 1,000% that this is voter fraud. And this is what her attorneys say happened.
Gabbard's office tells CNN that she took the Texas homestead exemption as a first step to hiding her address because of security concerns. In a letter to CNN, her attorney said Director Gabbard is, and intends to remain a Hawaii resident. That is where she lives, pays taxes, and of course, votes. Any suggestion that she is no longer a resident because she took the advice of local officials to register a homestead exemption to protect her and her family's privacy is flat wrong, factually, and...
Okay, so we call that the reliance defense in law. And I don't know if Tulsi is an attorney, but if she's not an attorney, that might be a valid defense. They call it the reliance defense. I was relying on the advice of my accountants and my attorneys. Either way, I think she needs to step down because it has the appearance of impropriety. And I would hope that she would step down for the sake of the Trump administration and the American people, so they can show that they're different than the Democrats who hold on to power even if they have a knife in their hand covered with blood. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree.
Legally.
So Tulsi Gabbard's defense essentially is ignorance of the law. I didn't know. I took bad advice from local officials. But as we all know, ignorance is no defense. And what about the fact that she is getting this big tax break and she declared that, hey, this is my primary residence on the form? It seems like she has a Letitia James problem.
Yes,
but as always, tell me where I'm wrong in this comment section. Tell me that, hey, I agree that Tulsi should be let off because she's a Republican and we should get Letitia James because she's a Democrat.
I think the two cases have a lot of differences, but I understand what he's doing. And I think lawyer Nate he's just pointing out the absolute atrocious way that both political parties behave. And as you guys know, that's why I'm a libertarian, because I just think that they're both totally corrupt. Well, let's get into the next video. And again, make sure to double tap that screen. Amber, thanks for joining me. David Ahern, my brother from Ireland, for showing up. Kinetic Customs and Racing. And then David, Chucky, Allah, good to see you. And James Forbes and Ann Pisano and Benny and all my homeboys and homegirls. Jody Shiloh, thanks for joining me today, guys. Let's get into the next DEI hire video. Here we go.
For exclusive reporting that Letitia James's referral over mortgage allegations. Now, according to the exhibits that were attached to the referral, she claimed that a Virginia property was her primary residence. And that allowed her to obtain a favorable mortgage rate. Well, the Daily Caller News Foundation sent a reporter to that Virginia home.
Hello there, ma'am. No comment? Okay, well, who lives here? Who lives here, ma'am? No comment. No comment. Okay.
That sure did not sound like Tish. And Virginia neighbors say they've never seen her there. One telling the Daily Caller News Foundation that whoever is living there is not the lady from New York.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, man. I mean, it's not just crazy, right, guys? I mean, that's why it's really hard for me to support either political party, because they're both just totally corrupt. I'll just take what I can get. You know, so far, Trump has appointed some pretty decent Second Amendment justices. And so I'll just leave it at that. I'm all about being able to defend my family. And I know that the lefties want to take away our firearms first chance they can get, because they want to make us like Australia. So I'm obviously going to go for the guy that supports the Second Amendment. Let's keep going.
Shot her husband inside a home on Lexington Street.
Then, as judge, she gets a new boyfriend, but winds up shooting him too.
Yeah, McKnight, who was a magisterial district judge here in Dauphin County, is accused of shooting her ex-boyfriend in the head while he was sleeping in his home last year. And
BLM even supported this judge and got her voted back in, even though she had shot two people.
And the community has voted me back in. I've been going through a free election, and I thank God for my community believing in me and said, you know what? She deserves to see.
Activists like Dr. Rashard Ritchie, who is pro-BLM 1,000,000%, he's turned against this judge.
Judge convicted of shooting her ex-boyfriend as he slept. She has a history as well. Put it up for a mask. I'll be damned.
And the story gets crazier from here. Okay, meet Judge Sonia McKnight out of Pennsylvania. Now, McKnight won her judgeship with 52% of the vote back in 2015. Now, let's fast forward a couple of years where police get a call to come to the judge's home because someone's been shot.
Police in Harrisburg are investigating a shooting at a home that, according to property tax records, is owned by a Dauphin County magisterial district judge.
We know that a woman that lives at this home fired a shot against a man she had an active protection from abuse order against. Now, that's according to the Dauphin County district attorney. All day long, we've told you that the home is owned by the magisterial district judge, Sonia McKnight. but it is unconfirmed if she currently lives here. Now, the man that was shot is in stable condition. As for the woman that fired that shot, she is cooperating with police. This is certainly a developing story. As soon as we have more details, we'll pass those along to you on air and online at fox43.com.
Now, we did get some more details. It was actually the judge who shot her husband.
The story of a magisterial district judge being questioned tonight by police.
Law enforcement sources tell us she shot her husband this morning.
We are outside of the home of District Judge Sonia McKnight, where police say she shot her husband inside. Now they're trying to figure out if it was self-defense. Dispatchers got the call for shots fired on Lexington Street at around 8:30 Friday morning. It's the home of magisterial District Judge Sonia McKnight. Investigators say she shot her husband Enoch McKnight in his lower body. He's expected to survive. Meanwhile, investigators are working to determine whether the shooting was self-defense.
So the judge shot her husband and was claiming self-defense. And authorities also agreed with the judge and said, hey, this shooting is likely self-defense.
Last week, law enforcement sources says Judge McKnight shot her husband inside a home on Lexington Street. Court documents show McKnight's husband, Enoch McKnight, pled guilty to assault and endangerment charges this year for a 2018 incident where he assaulted his estranged wife, Sonia McKnight. The day after that assault, she filed for a PFA. The DA says the PFA was recently changed to allow for peaceful contact.
So now, after being...
So this is what I don't get, guys, and this is something as a lawyer I've dealt with. There are some women, from my professional opinion, who get a thrill out of the violent contact in a domestic dispute where they can call the police and then have that power. Oh, I'm going to get you out, baby. I love you, and have the makeup sex or whatever, right? Have you guys heard of this before? I mean, there's actually a psychological term. Somebody in the comments put it in there. And it's especially with women who are attracted to criminals like male convicts and people, they'll marry guys who are in prison and they're just turned on by that physical attack, even getting beat on, and then having the power to get them arrested and then the power to get them out of jail. It's a push pull. I can't remember what it's called, but when I hear this story, it's like, man, this sounds like totally 1,000,000% on point. She gets a PO against the guy, a protective order, and then, oh, I miss you, baby. Let's get back together. Oh, I love you. Please don't prosecute me. I'll be a good husband from now on, right? Yeah, it's called the cycle. David Lipke calls it a cycle. Yeah. But if there's professionals in here, I know what happens because we've had experts testify in some of my civil cases about it, but it's unbelievable. And to me, I don't know, give me a bunch of ones if you guys agree that this is the traditional, basically two criminals, going back and forth, push, pull. There's no honor among thieves and criminals, guys. And this is an outcome. And again, I don't know if that's exactly what happened here, but it sure does sound that way.
Cleared of that shooting, the judge found herself in some more controversy.
Criminal charges after being accused of interfering with the arrest of her son in 2020. She spent more than 6 months suspended without pay in 2021, while that criminal case played out.
Now, just to be clear, these charges we're talking about all occurred because one night, Judge McKnight's son was pulled over by police. Judge McKnight then went to the scene where her son was talking to police. While at the scene, it was alleged that she removed pill bottles from the car and then left the scene. Now, because that occurred, she was charged by the State Attorney General's office with tampering with evidence, obstruction of justice, and official suppression. Now, she went to trial on those charges, and the community really supported her. Here is the change.org petition that says, quote, "I stand with Judge McKnight." Now, over 2,000 people signed this form, and as it says here, McKnight is the first and only African-American female elected to the Magisterial District 12204 Harrisburg, PA, and the mother of 3 sons. And during that trial, there were protests. Quote, "Drop the charges, as you see. I stand with Sonia." And all of this was because they believed that Sonia was being attacked because she was a Black woman. Now, this became such a thing that even her husband, who, remember, she had shot and was cleared of that shooting, he actually did this video begging people to support his wife.
"I'd like very deeply if you would give me your heart and your ear concerning Magisterial District Justice Judge Sonia McKnight. She was charged with 3 misdemeanor 2s for answering a call from her son at a traffic stop by Harrisburg police at approximately 2:30 a.m. in the morning. The Honorable Judge Sonia McKnight is a product of Harrisburg's finest, often referred to by some as the bleeding heart judge because she is not a rubber stamp in her community, as her training has taught her.
Yeah.
She was raised in the projects of Harrisburg by two wonderful parents, Mr. Butch Chase and Miss Elaine Chase McPherson. She's been active in her community, working on even Mayor Pappenfuss's initial campaign and loving on our children.
Now, you have to understand, this is back in 2020, 2021. The George Floyd era has just begun. So using the I'm Black and oppressed card generally worked at that particular time. And it worked for this judge because she was acquitted of all charges.
What's the next step for you, Judge?
I'm ready to take my seat back. I need to get back to the bench. I love my community. I want my seat. And the community has voted me back in. I've been going through a re-election, and I thank God for my community believing in me and said, you know what? She deserves the seat. So I'm grateful.
So now this judge must feel untouchable. She shot her.
What's the matter? You does make an interesting comment. Loving on our children. I mean, based upon the videos that we saw earlier about the public school teachers trying to teach little kids how to use butt plugs. I mean, I don't know, man. That's kind of scary. And they're from the same political party too. So I don't know, guys. Do you think that was a slip of the tongue, or do you think that there's something else going on here we need to be concerned about?
Husband got off from that. She faced criminal charges, was acquitted from that. And then while all that was happening, she was getting reelected to be a judge. So feeling essentially invincible, the judge started just running things like she wanted to run things. But the state ethics board had to come in and essentially stop this judge from committing total anarchy. Here's what happened.
The court documents describe 7 different allegations involving theft of time, conflict of interest, abusing her office prestige, and unexplained absences. Judge McKnight allegedly faced a conflict of interest on 2 different occasions when she presided over cases where her impartiality could be questioned. Judge McKnight did not recuse herself from a case where her personal attorney represented a defendant in a DUI-related case she presided over. She also presided over a case involving a Harrisburg City police officer that she filed a citizen's complaint against, alleging he, along with 3 other officers involved in her 2021 criminal investigation, conspired to destroy her credibility in the community. The Judicial Office says McKnight abused the prestige of the Judicial Office when she reached out to a Dauphin County contact asking to obtain a copy of the police report related to that criminal case. They say she also abused this prestige when she used her social media accounts that identify herself as a magistrate judge to sell a product named X-It Red. On March 23, 2022, Judge McKnight's clerk received a civil complaint claiming McKnight owed an individual nearly $2,100. McKnight allegedly advised her clerk to act like the complaint was never received, a misdemeanor offense of obstructing administration of the law. Lastly, Judge McKnight allegedly failed to appear for her assigned judicial duties and could not be reached between January 14th and 16th of this year. The 7 allegations have resulted in 20 counts under 9 different charges. District Judge Sonia McKnight.
I mean, you just can't make this stuff up, guys. But when you're taught all your life that you're a professional victim, these are the types of excuses that one uses.
It will remain suspended until the Court of Judicial Discipline comes to a decision.
All right. So now while all that's going on, the judge needs companionship. So she meets this guy, Michael McCoy, and they start dating. Then, in a shocking twist, police get a call from McKnight's home that someone has been shot.
A man was transported to the hospital after being shot earlier this morning. Thanks for joining us for Fox 43 News at 10. I'm Marshall Keeley. We begin tonight with developing news. Police are investigating a shooting at a home in Susquehanna Township that left a man injured this morning. And officials say a suspended Harrisburg district judge was there at the time. Fox 43's Robert Stover joins us right now and shares what we know so far about the investigation.
Well, Marshall, officials with the Cumberland County District Attorney's Office confirmed they are investigating a shooting that occurred in Susquehanna Township before 1 a.m. this morning. Police responded to a home in the 200 block of Saddle Ridge Drive where they found a man shot and injured. The man was transported to a local hospital and his condition is unknown. Officials did not confirm the identity of the victim, but did confirm one other person was in the home at the time of the shooting. Suspended Harrisburg District Judge Sonia McKnight was confirmed to be in the home at the time of the incident, but officials have not confirmed to Fox 43 if she was involved.
So now police had to start investigating what the hell happened. There's a man shot in the judge's house for a second time. Remember, we had her husband that was shot in her home before. Now we have her boyfriend. So police went to work. They found that the gun.
But her constituents get her off on the first one, so now she's emboldened, right, guys? What do you guys think? What do you guys think?
Used in this particular crime was registered to Judge McKnight. They also found gun residue on Judge McKnight's hands and clothing, and the victim said that he didn't shoot himself in the head, that he was shot in the head. Another thing prosecutors had is the fact that there were only 2 people in the residence at the time, McKnight and her boyfriend. So this quickly led police to believe that McKnight was the one that shot her boyfriend. And then they found out that the boyfriend was breaking up with her.
Clay, how do you feel things went today for you?
We'll see tomorrow how things went today.
55-year-old Michael McCoy leaving Dauphin County Court. He is the ex-boyfriend of suspended Dauphin County Judge Sonia McKnight, who did not take the stand during the 2-day trial. McCoy did, testifying he woke up at his home on Saddle Ridge Drive early February 10, 2024, bleeding and blind. That was after a particularly difficult week in what had been a rocky 1-year relationship with McKnight, characterized, he said, by jealousy on her part. He said he wanted her to move out of his house, back to her house in Harrisburg, and she wouldn't go. Prosecutors used all this as evidence of a motive for a shooting.
Now, you may be asking, well, what was the judge's defense? Well, her defense was McCoy shot himself.
Now, McKnight's attorney has issued a statement saying, in part, Judge McKnight is innocent of the alleged charges. She did not shoot Mr. McCoy. Judge McKnight looks forward to the whole story being told. Judge McKnight intends to vigorously defend herself in this matter. She believes in the criminal justice system, and once all of the facts in this matter are brought to light, she is confident that she will be cleared of any wrongdoing.
So the judge says she's innocent, and she's going to prove her innocent.
Breaking news, a suspended Dauphin County District Judge accused of shooting her ex-boyfriend in his sleep has been found guilty of attempted murder.
Now, you know this has gotten bad for the judge because activists like Dr. Rashard Ritchie, who is pro-BLM 1,000,000%, he's turned against this judge.
Judge convicted of shooting her ex-boyfriend as he slept. She has a history as well. Put it at full mass. I'll be damned. Magistrate judge of Pennsylvania.
Now, our judge is facing 60 years behind bars. And that's going to be the question to you people out there. Does this judge deserve 60 years in prison? What sentence would you give this judge? Now, the judge is continuing to say that she did not shoot this guy and that the evidence against her was feeble because it's not like he can point to her and say she shot me because he was asleep. Very interesting way to try to reduce the amount of time you're going to get on an attempted murder charge. But if I was the judge sentencing Judge McKnight, I think a nice 20 to 30 years would be appropriate. But I'm a nice guy. So let me know what you think in the comment section. Tell me if you agree.
Yeah, what do you guys think? Put it in the comments. How much time should Judge McKnight get? Or was it racist, bigot, and homophobic that is the reason she got convicted? And that all the charges should be thrown out. By the way, good seeing you, Kurt Bronson, again. Thanks for all the comments. Let me see here. Amber says she won't get 60 years, which is BS. She'll get a tap on the wrist. I think you mean slap, right? But maybe tap. That might be better. Majolners Ras says many feminist Christian women that literally play Lord to their husband. Let's see. Blue Poo Sue Goo says Kinetic Customs. All this crazy stuff. Wow. A lot of great comments, though, guys. Make sure to also double tap that screen, guys. Get me some likes and subscribes and save these videos for later. I do them long enough to where you can listen to them when you're in your car. And you'll learn more from me than you do from Communist News Network, right, guys? So let's get into the next video really quick. We're almost done. We're almost done, so you can enjoy your Easter aside from enjoying it with me.
The former mayor of Hallandale Beach, Joy Cooper, accused of taking bribes from undercover federal agents posing as developers. Local 10's Hatzel Villa is live with what happened in court today. Hatzel?
Well, Christy, I can tell you jury selection is still underway as we speak, has been going on
the
entire day, will likely resume tomorrow. As for the former mayor, well, she told the judge she's ready for trial.
Mayor, do you want to say anything?
No, she really doesn't.
Here's former Mayor Joy Cooper leaving jail after she was arrested in January of 2018.
Joy Francis Cooper.
Jury selection underway in the case of the former longtime Hollandale Beach mayor. 8 jurors will eventually decide her fate. During trial, expect to hear scandalous new details about the investigation that started in 2012.
Got a bundle of stuff.
Where undercover FBI agents posed as wealthy developers pretending to want favors from Cooper.
There's no comment, Bob.
The soap opera-like story involves Alan Koslow, a once powerful, criminally convicted lobbyist who made a deal with prosecutors and wore a wire in an undercover sting to nab Cooper.
You guys like the outside, don't you?
We're out in the open.
Koslow is heard here, with then Mayor Cooper talking to undercover federal agents at Gulfstream Park. Cooper has been in the spotlight before.
I think it's a disservice to democracy.
She made headlines when her colleagues accused her of being drunk at a city council meeting, something she later denied.
Definitely a mocracy, right? A mockery of the republic. What do you guys think?
There was also her public feud.
I will leave this meeting.
With the vice mayor.
Do you understand the charges and the maximum possible penalties involved?
Yes, I do, Judge.
Today, the judge told Cooper she's facing 3 counts of official misconduct. Other charges include violation of campaign contribution, conspiracy to commit a violation of campaign contribution, and soliciting campaign contribution. Cooper says she's innocent.
I would like to go to trial.
Woo!
And if convicted of those charges, the former mayor, Mrs. Cooper, could end up going to prison for up to 20 years.
What do you guys think? Do you think anything is going to happen to her? I kind of don't. So far, this has just been a joke. Let's see what the DEI hire female officers, what's going on with them.
Lieutenant Quantisha Epps claimed to work more than 1,600 hours of overtime, a staggering total uncovered last month by the New York Post. It allowed Epps to pull in more than $204,000 in overtime pay, on top of her base salary of around $164,000, plus fringe benefits.
Last week, her overtime salary of more than $400,000 a year, making headlines, prompting her, according to her attorney, to come forward. She worked under Madry as personnel officer in his previous post, but according to the complaint, the sexual harassment didn't begin until after he became chief of department.
What happened here seems to be that Lieutenant Epps was under investigation internally by the NYPD since October. And the allegations are that not only was she putting in for excessive overtime, but that she was actually putting in for overtime that she had not completed or done, so that she was effectively stealing time.
Today, federal agents searched the home of former NYPD Chief of Department Jeffrey Madry.
Yeah, that move is following his sudden resignation from the department amid accusations he demanded sexual favors in exchange for overtime paid with an employee, which he claims was consensual.
Okay, we got a major update in this overtime scandal.
Chris asks, is that Forrest Whitaker? Guys, is that Forrest Whitaker masquerading as an overpaid police chief with his own harem of unattractive female cops? What do you guys think?
Story, it gets crazy. Happy New Year and welcome back to the channel. My name is Nathan Laura, and let's get into this crazy story about sex, lies, and overtime when it comes to the NYPD. All right, our story starts about 9 months ago when the NYPD was called out by the city council for spending massive amounts of overtime. Check it out.
The NYPD's overtime budget is soaring. It is up 50%. The department says that's because of frequent protests in New York City surrounding the conflict in Gaza. And it also is paying more to patrol the subways with the recent surge of high-profile crimes. The top brass today faced tough questions from members of the city council. Here's Eyewitness News reporter N.J. Burkett.
You get what you pay for.
NYPD Commander Edward Caban insisted today that the results speak for themselves.
Shooting incidents are down 16%, and murder has dropped 18.8%, while burglary has been reduced by 12.7%, and overall crime is down 1.6% citywide.
But in a hearing before the city council, NYPD commanders admitted that costs are soaring. Police deployments in the subway system and details for demonstrations have blown the NYPD's overtime budget by more than $100 million, on course for an increase of 50% over their own projections. Council Speaker Adrian Adams was firm.
The continued spending and significant excess of the budget on overtime only intensifies concerns about the department's management of its budget and workforce.
Now, as you can see in this photo, this is Chief Jeffrey Madre. He was one of the top brass there at the NYPD defending the department's overtime expenditure. So now after this occurred, the New York Post did an expose on the top earning overtime cops in the city. And one of those cops happened to work for Chief Madre. Check it out.
Lieutenant Quantisha Epps claimed to work more than 1,600 hours of overtime, a staggering total uncovered last month by the New York Post. It allowed Epps to pull in more than $204,000 in overtime pay, on top of her base salary of around $164,000, plus fringe benefits.
Now, Epps tried to retire, but then she was suspended without pay because the brass thought that she was stealing overtime. Then Epps had a new story to tell. She wasn't stealing overtime. She was getting paid for sex.
Lieutenant Epps says starting in June 2023.
So she basically admits she was violating prostitution laws, and she'll come up with some nonsense case that she was being pressured, sex for whatever. And that's I think that's what actually happened here. What's Forrest Whitaker going to say? What do you guys think?
Madre engaged in efforts to coerce her into performing unwanted sexual favors in exchange for overtime opportunities. According to publicly available payroll data, Epps.
Attention on deck. Chevy has arrived in the chat. Everybody give me a bunch of ones for Chevy. Is one of my longest supporters since I've been doing this, ever since Chili DeCastro got illegally jailed and stuff like that. I helped Chili run his channel over at Delete Laws until we got him out of jail. And Chevy was always a super loyal supporter. In fact, he's one of the reasons why I kept doing these shows, because honestly, I don't have hours and hours out of my day to do these shows. But you guys always give me $1.99 or whatever, and that kind of motivates me because I put that in a Roth IRA for my daughter, and she's helping me with the channel. So it works out. I'm trying to teach her how to be an entrepreneur. Guys like Chevy are the reason why I stuck around. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Chevy. Bunch of ones for Chevy. Make sure to like and subscribe to Chevy's channel as well.
Made a salary last year of over $164,000, but after overtime was factored in, she took home more than $400,000, making her the department's highest paid employee. After refusing his advances in October, she says, Madre retaliated by orchestrating an intentionally manipulated monthly overtime report, which resulted in a criminal and internal investigation opened against her.
Now, the chief responds to all this saying, hey, this was all a consensual relationship. She is just lying about him approving the overtime because he doesn't even approve overtime. And he resigned not because of these baseless allegations, it's because he was moving on with his career. Here is the chief explaining it.
And I just wanted to come out and just stand up for myself and tell everyone that these accusations are not true.
Well, let's get into a little bit and ask about the one that is making the most headlines. Did you force sexual favors from a subordinate, NYPD Lieutenant Quantisha Epps, starting in June 2023? She's a ranking officer. Did you force that in exchange for overtime?
I mean, there's so many things I want to say right now, guys, but the comedy is so amazing that I couldn't make up comedy funnier than this.
Approval and other perks signed off by you?
Absolutely not.
What happened here?
Me and Lieutenant Epps.
Oh, by the way, ding, ding, ding. Thanks, Chevy. And that's the main thing that I love about you, Chevy, is you understand that buying memberships, that goes out to other people who might want to become part of Team MPE and enjoy this experience. Thank you so much, Chevy, for supporting the channel. If every one of you guys donated $1.99, I could make $5,000 every show, because I usually get between 5,000 to 20,000 views every show. And that would go a long way to getting me to do this full time and quit my day job as a lawyer and become a full-time influencer on YouTube, which give me a bunch of ones. If you guys would rather me do these shows all day, would you rather me practice law in the daytime and be miserable? What do you guys think? Give me a bunch of twos if you'd rather I practice law in the daytime and be miserable. I hope you guys like the content, though. I really do try to bring you things that most lawyers who are terrified of their shadow would never bring you. So here we go.
So we worked together. Starting in early 2022. we were together, working together for about 1.5 years, and we were working together. One thing led to another. We had an office flame.
Thanks, Ben.
That's all it was an office flame.
Consensual relationship, you're saying?
Absolutely consensual.
How long did that last?
We had got together a couple of times. There was really nothing to it. There was no romance. We weren't girlfriend and boyfriend. We had an office.
We was hooking up, you know. I was hitting it from the backside. I mean, guys, really? This guy's supposed to be a public servant. He's anyways, keep listening. It gets better.
The chief of department, somebody look at that and say, it may have been consensual, but you had far-reaching powers and this was a subordinate. Do you think that was appropriate?
It wasn't appropriate for me to be in a relationship with anyone.
And so let me be clear. You're saying that you had a consensual relationship with Ms. Epps. And that she's essentially lying in this EEOC complaint. What do you think her motivation is to do this now?
Would you mind if I answered that? Because, what happened here seems to be that Lieutenant Epps was under investigation internally by the NYPD since October. And the allegations are that not only was she putting in for excessive overtime, but that she was actually putting in for overtime that she had not completed or done.
Wait, guys, normally I have Chevy who helps me come up with theme songs, but I think this is going to be the official theme song of the NYPD. No, man, what do you guys think? If I hit it one time, I'm a piper.
The other time.
Hit it 2
So
times, I like
when she put in her retirement papers, 2 days later, the NYPD suspended her. And they suspended her because of suspicion that she had committed a crime, which is stealing overtime from the NYPD.
It was abrupt.
Yes.
And some would say, well, if you didn't feel you did anything wrong, why did you leave so abrupt?
Well, there was a couple of things going on when I made the decision. I was already making a decision, and it was really weighing heavy on my mind. I was entering 35 years, almost completing 35 years of city service. I knew that I was going to have to fight, and I didn't want to have the constraints of the police department, being the chief of the department, holding me back from fighting properly for my innocence. When you're in the police department, I can't say certain things. I can't do certain things. I have to have the chief manager persona. When you talk about my work speaks for itself.
I can't do certain things, but I can hit it one time because I liked her. I can hit it one time. I'm a wifer. If I hit it 3 times, yeah. All right, Forrest, let's go.
Driving down crime as the chief of the department. All right. What I've done out there in the communities, what I've done in Brooklyn North. All right. I have given so much to the city, so much, and I've never asked anyone for anything in return. All right. Countless people who can never repay me for what I've done for them. All right. And I've never looked for repayment, not even from the lieutenant.
Now, guys, I think Felice Johnson might have a little bit something to say about this. So we're going to have an interview with Felice Johnson. Well, kind of an interview with Felice Johnson once this video is over. So I want y'all to stick around, because Felice Johnson is one of my heroes from the prison community. We're gonna hear what Felice Johnson has to say about crazies like this dude.
So for her to try and spin a story like this is very hurtful because I've given so much to the people of this city.
He's given so much that
it ain't safe for the black or the white. It ain't safe. It ain't safe.
All right, yes. So let's see what he's got to say. What do you guys think?
During our conversation and during a press conference today with select members of the media, the former chief and his lawyer claim they have evidence backing up their statements. The relationship with Lieutenant Epps was consensual, and they say it includes intimate text messages and images.
So now you may say, well, this is a he said, she said. Quantisha Epps was banging them for overtime. So that's essentially prostitution, being paid with taxpayer dollars. It's all a mess, right? They both are horrible people. But that's not the end of the story, because some other women who work for the chief also were making monstrous amounts of overtime, like Detective Ingrid Sanders.
According to departmental records, Lieutenant Quantisha Epps, Madry's personnel officer, worked more than 1,600 hours in the fiscal year of 2024, bumping her salary to $406,000. It also shows Detective Ingrid Sanders, Madry's driver, with more than 1,400 hours of overtime, bumping her salary to $352,000. Madry's second in command, Deputy Chief Paul Saraceno, who oversaw overtime approval, was modified Wednesday evening. And Monday, Commissioner Jessica Tisch removed 14 officials from the Internal Affairs Bureau after the chief also abruptly resigned in the overtime abuse scandal.
Now, Quantisha Epps is making $400,000 a year. Ingrid is making $350,000 a year. Are there any other female officers working for the chief making monstrous amounts of overtime? Well, yes. Yes, there was. Here's Ada Reyes. She made $53,000 in overtime, New York Post reports. Now, overtime isn't something new in law enforcement. On average, NYPD officers can make between 10 to 20% of their salary in overtime. But now, if you compare that to the three women who are working for the chief, for instance, Quantisha Epps, her base salary is $164,000. So if you factor in overtime, she made 124% of her base salary in overtime. That's a lot more than the 10 to 20% on average. Ingrid Sanders, she made 84% of her estimated base salary in overtime. And Detective Reyes made 57% of her base salary in overtime. So this seemed to be a real problem.
Well, here's the problem, guys. Here's the problem. That police chief did not act enough like a true player hater. And so, I just wanted to let you guys give you a little inside scoop. If you would have been more of a player hater and given them hoes a little bit less grip, right, and kept that more for himself, they wouldn't have gotten so damn greedy and been ratting them out. What do y'all think?
With all these women being paid these huge amounts of overtime and all these questions about sex for public funds, the FBI and Internal Affairs said, hey, we got to really look to see what's going on here because we have hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars going to what looks to be a sex for pay scandal.
Hey, Teresa. So what we know right now is that federal agents and the NYPD's Internal Affairs Bureau raided Jeffrey Madry's home, which is right behind me, this morning. Now, NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch, in a statement, said other locations were searched as well, but didn't give specifics. Now, take a look at this video here. This is video of investigators bringing out boxes and bins of papers. Madry is being investigated over allegations that he demanded sex from a subordinate in exchange for overtime pay. A day before these bombshell allegations were made, Madry put in his retirement papers, leaving his position as chief of department. The new chief of department, John Schell, was sworn in on New Year's Eve, but Commissioner Tisch also making clear this morning that Madry has been suspended from the department as well. Any NYPD officer who retires technically stays on the books for 30 days and can be suspended if it's determined he's violated department rules or committed a criminal act. Madry has denied the accusations that he forced this lieutenant to have sex with him, claiming that the relationship was consensual. We have reached out to Madry's lawyers, but haven't heard back yet. Now, on Tuesday, Mayor Adams also said that Commissioner Tisch is doing a review of the.
Now, here's a problem that I have, guys. So if that poor police commissioner goes to jail and he runs across a dude like Felice Johnson, I just want to show you what he's got to expect, all right? Because this is not going to be easy. He's going to have to do it the easy way, or he's going to have to do it the hard way. So let's check it out and see what's going to happen to this police chief if he's got to do it the hard way. Let's check it out.
We met Felice Johnson, a longtime inmate who practices a very different kind of homosexuality.
But we have sexual desires, right? So you got a bunch of men locked up in one place. All of them get hard. All of them's horny. All of them got sexual desires. So what are they going to do? You won't let them have a woman. They going to have each. Somebody's going to have to give us some booty. And it's just that simple.
The most memorable story that Felice told us was about the place and importance that booty has in a maximum security penitentiary. And he went on about it and on about it.
In his prison, booty. Booty was more important than food. Booty. a man's butt. It was more, I'm serious. It was more booty, having some booty was more important than drinking water, man.
That's it, man.
I like booty.
Johnson went on to tell our crew how he used to satisfy his sexual desires, especially during the 1970s and 80s, when he was most active and prison security was more lax.
When I see one and he looks good to me, when I go see him, I say, you come here. I say, I'm telling you what, I like you and I want you. And we can do it the easy way or the hard way. So the choice is yours, right?
Yeah, man. So, that's the problem. Now this innocent New York police chief, if he goes to jail, he might have to do it the hard way,
Department and looking specifically at how overtime hours are logged.
So now, what do you think? At first, I thought the chief and Quantisha Epps were bad people, but now it seems like the chief was doing this with a whole bunch of other people. Now, the allegations are specifically with Epps, not these other two officers who are not saying that they were harassed sexually. But my God, $350,000 in overtime, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And it all happens to go to women who are on the police force who happens to work under this guy. None of this makes sense.
Unless, he was a true player hater, he would have been able to get out of all this. See, that's the problem. If that cop would have been more like, a true player hater, all them hoes over with the police department, they would have never got overtime. He would have taken the overtime for himself. See, that's the problem. He was not enough of a player hater.
Sense. And for those of you who watch the channel all the time, this is exactly what's going on in Dalton. This is exactly what Tiffany Hinyard was doing with the police department in Dalton. Remember?
The officers are paid every 2 weeks, which without overtime is 80 hours. But when they're put on Hinyard's detail, that 80 hours balloons to well over 100 hours, sometimes 200 hours. And in the case of Officer Terry Young last May, 303 hours worked over a 2-week period. That resulted in a single paycheck of more than $13,000.
How does a person put in a 2-week pay period, 303 hours? That's impossible. That's impossible.
336
Does he
hours.
never go to sleep?
In fact, there are 336 hours total in 2 weeks, meaning Young was not being paid for only 33 hours over that period. Other officers on the security detail are also racking up overtime paychecks in the multiple thousands of dollars.
So as you see, for police officers, it seems like the easiest way for them to steal money from the public is just faking overtime. Hinyard did it. I'm surprised the FBI hasn't raided Hinyard and the police officers there for essentially doing the same thing that's happening in New York City with overtime. Because obviously that guy's not working every single hour of every single day for $13,000 in 1 week for Hinyard. And the same with these other officers, right? She's admitted, hey, she wasn't doing that work. She was banging the chief and $200,000 or $300,000 in overtime. But let me know what you feel.
Let me know what you feel, guys, because the thing is, let's see what Fleece thinks about it, because I want to know what Fleece. Now, this is Fleece 40 years later after getting out of prison. Let's hear what Fleece Johnson got to say.
Mr. Never lost a fight. Yeah. Mr. I get busy. I strike first. Man, I was watching that 20 versus 1 on that Mike Adelaboo. What's up, Mike? Good looking.
I'm here, man. I'm here, dog.
Real,
I'm here, dog. You know what I'm saying?
The little young guy. I'm not gonna give him no credit for walking up to a 67-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm having this conversation with you.
Hell no.
He grabbed you. He probably weigh. How much you weigh?
It don't matter.
No. Just hold up. How much you weigh?
I don't know.
You.
I don't know.
You weigh. Hold on. Well, let me guess. You probably weigh about 212, 214, somewhere in there. He probably weighed about $130, $140. And he grabbed you and kind of took you down to the ground fairly easy. What you got to say about that? I mean,
okay, that's what I got to say about it. You got pit bulls, since you want to go through the weight class. Let's go through the dog weight class. You got pit bulls weigh 30 pounds, can take down a dog weigh 180.
That's true.
I mean, it ain't about the size, it's about the power packing in the size.
That's
right?
true. He's right.
And that's where it's at.
He's right.
And little dude, he can, no matter what weight
All right,
you
what's
put
up?
him in, he was
See you,
way
bro.
more than what you said. I put his weight around 160, 55, 60.
at the most, yeah.
Yeah. And but he's packing power like a pit, right? He's packing pit power. And so with that 155 pound frame, he's packing power in him like a pit, right? And me, I'm being the age I am, which is no excuse. I ain't been exercising. And really, I wasn't prepared for that type of advance because that wasn't part of what I was told, right? I was told he's going to come out and say this and that and no contact. But anyway, my thing is, it's all right. And I ain't got no beef with him, but I can say this much to him. He came out and checked this out. Houston, your boy came out since everybody said, oh, Houston dealt with Booty Man. They took him to the ground. No, check this out. Here's what here's what little boy don't want to hear. He came out and said, you ain't the real Booty Man, I'm the real Booty Man. And ran up on me and tried to slam me, right? Well,
He didn't try. He did.
well, let's say he did. Okay. Okay, let's give you the credit. You the Booty Man. You're a young boy. You got all them Houston girls in Houston. They said,
let me translate. So Fleece Johnson is the original Booty Man, all right? He's the one who likes man's butt. That's Fleece now. He's older now. We just showed you a video of him earlier. And he got in an altercation with a younger, smaller guy who says he's the original Booty Man. And so they're fighting over it. What do you guys think? Do you think it was fair that the original Booty Man, Fleece, got taken down by a smaller, younger man? And do you think that Fleece should maintain the title of the original Booty Man? Or do you think that the new young Playa Haida should now be the new Booty Man? Let's see what Fleece has got to say.
and back now with a finger on their jaw like that. He's a what? He said he's the real booty. He went on TV and say he's the Booty Man. Okay, now what is the Booty Man? A gay person? Oh, no, he didn't say he was gay. So he's going to tell everybody he's gay. Hey, young man, I'm telling you what, I pass that torch to you. You can be the Booty Man. You walk around Houston, tell all the little young girls you gay, right? You already did it. You made a demonstration. You tried to take my booty. So you know what? You did it on live TV, trying to take me down, throw my legs back. That's what you was going for. To throw my legs back, get up in me and kiss me. But you know what? You can't get none of this. You didn't get it. So
now, back in the day, Fleece would have gotten it. Now, I want to show you what I'm talking about.
and it was always yes.
Johnson also had a warning for the new generation of inmates. They might be asking for trouble from old-timers.
You know, they got this thing where they sag their pants past their butt. It's a style. They call it some sort of gangster style. You know, it's sexy to us, right? And see, but they weren't prepared for this, right? So you sag your pants in her, man, somebody be up in your butt, you know, and it's just that simple.
Johnson even let the lockup crew know that when he was in his prime, they wouldn't be safe from his advances either.
If y'all had been in her back then in them days, and as much as I like booty, I probably felt one of y'all butts. And y'all was walking past me.
See what I'm saying? I don't know, guys. I think that Fleece is the original Booty Man. What do you guys think? Here he is as an older man, but I still think he should retain that title. What do you think?
I don't have no animosity about it, but you know what? He woke me up to one thing.
What's that?
I need to start exercising. I need to get my weight.
Your core strong.
Yeah, I need to get that strength back.
Yeah.
You know, the strength is in me, but I need to. When the person touched me, I want you to feel it.
He just did it so easy.
No, he did like a bum rush. It's like a sucker punch, right? It's like, you know, I least suspect he grabbed me and then start, and the floor is real slippery. But here's what.
The floor is real slippery.
Look, if you look at the camera, you'll see one thing. I had him gripped up here, and this hand here were reaching down, trying to get up under his pants leg. Now you got 2-3 people on my back trying to pull me, but they pressing me down to the ground. They not gonna let me do it. If they had moved out of the way with their grip up in his chest,
They was trying to break it up, man.
man, I would have had him up in the air like this, bro.
Let me ask you a question.
Man, don't ask me nothing. I would have had him strained up like this.
Let me ask you a question. So was the floor just slippery up under you?
It was slippery. Everything was slipping.
Well, he didn't slip.
If you look at it, yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. He pushing forward.
That's what I'm saying. He didn't
He
slip.
pushing forward. You didn't look at it. You weren't looking for slips. You were looking for takedowns. So look for slips and you'll see.
Like I said, I don't give him no credit for taking down a 67-year-old man, but I'm talking.
What? And dares you to say so. I'm not no shame in my game. This is nothing that I'm ashamed to admit. I am what I am. I'm a warrior too, you know, so let that be known. I'm a warrior.
Coming up.
Took me down was a whole pile of them. It was like a gang of them on me.
It wasn't no gang of them. They seen the video.
They was on me, a whole gang of them. You know, Houston ganged me.
You sound like Kevin Hart's father when he said that all them people jumped him and
Guess
one
what?
man whooped his butt.
Guess what? Muhammad Ali got his jaw broke and lasted 12 rounds with a broken jaw and came back and knocked him out. And I'm telling you right now, you could take me. I did not touch that floor. I almost did.
You failed.
I almost did. But you saw me get up.
You gonna sit up right
You saw me get up.
You gonna sit up
like
right
a true champ. I got back on my feet like a champ.
All right. So everybody, looks like I'm losing you guys. So we got a chance to learn about DEI hires and DEI fires and criminal convictions of the DEI crew. Hopefully you guys had a good time today. We got a little chance to hang out with Fleece Johnson, the original Booty Man. Give me a bunch of ones if you think that Fleece should maintain the title of Booty Man, or do you think he has been now replaced by the new younger generation of Booty Man? So 2s if Fleece is no longer the Booty Man, or 1s if Fleece will maintain the title of official Booty Man. And then yeah. And Kinetic Customs and Racing. I mean, I'm really glad that you made it here today, my brother. And yeah, Booty Boy. Kevin Brunowski, good seeing you, man. Thanks for all the likes and subscribes and the super chats and the memberships today, guys. Happy Easter to all you guys. You know, if you're a Christian and you believe that Jesus rose again on the third day, and your sins are forgiven and washed in his blood, hallelujah to you. And for those of you who just believe that God is your creator and that your rights come from God and you believe in natural law, welcome to Team MPE. Thanks for joining my show today. Are there any questions before I close out this glorious Sunday? I got David Lipke. He's thinking of the boogeyman. Let me see here. Kinetic wants to call him the Booty Boy. Okay, Benjai says you can't talk to these people. They're insane and impossible and get violent over everything. Let me see here. And Benjai thinks that he's insane, which is probably how he ended up in prison. You think? I wonder. Let me see here. I think that's where the chief of police is headed too, man. He's going to end up being a booty man. What do you guys think? Trademarking that shit. All right. So anyways, guys, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save. And again, thank you guys for all showing up. Jody Shiloh, Kevin Bernarski, and Chevy, Kurt Bronson. Make sure to like and subscribe, and always make sure to save, guys. Save my stuff, like for later viewing. That really gives me a boost with the gods over at YouTube. And make sure to always save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Semper Fi, do or die, guys. Have a great weekend.